Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. Today, I am joined by Brandon Jones at the end.
Whee!
Michael Huber in the middle.
Hello.
And I will be your host, Ben Moore. We are all married men.
Yes.
Yeah. We're all married men.
Are we all wearing wedding rings?
Yeah.
Okay, there we
Amazingly, I haven't lost mine yet.
Same.
It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. We're shooting this on a Thursday night. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Do you guys have any plans for Valentine's Day with your lovely spouses?
It comes so early. Amanda's birthday's in October. Mine's in January. Christmas. There's so many festivities. We actually give each other a break. We actually are that's not a huge deal. Because that's the thing, I am the only person at this desk with a small child. And man, if you can get a dinner, it's Valentine's Day.
Right. Right. You're just jazzed about that. Yeah.
So if we can get 2 hours just to communicate.
So do you get a sitter, or is it just if we get to relax, we're golden?
If we get to relax, we're golden. Yeah. And we've had some. We went out to dinner the other day. We had a little date night, just out of nowhere. And sometimes those are kind of nice, just out of not for any particular reason, just because you're special, darling.
Keeping the spark alive. Brandon.
Oh yeah,
I like it. Huber, how about you?
She does not like Valentine's Day.
Doesn't like it. Why?
She's not a very mushy person. I'm the mushy one.
You're the mushy one.
I'm 10 times more, million times more mushy. Yeah.
Who's the mushiest out?
Yeah. Behind closed doors, I love to cuddle. I love to snuggle under a blanket. That's what I love doing that. So yeah, we don't really do anything for Valentine's Day. Same thing as Jones though, where it's just we'll find ourselves probably chilling on that day, and we'll just share the moment of hey, I love you.
Do you guys watch a lot of movies together? Do you go to a lot of movies together? What's kind of your go-to activity?
We always have an eating show. We try to always have at least a meal together every day, lunch or dinner, no matter what.
You tricked me into thinking you were watching MasterChef or something, but no, shows.
That's what I thought.
You watch when you
we
eat.
watch Great British Bake Off.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hang out every day, all the time.
Nice.
Live in a really, really small apartment, so we're always hanging out.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Man, I feel like the grandiose one here. We're going down to San Diego. Going to go to the aquarium and zoo. We like looking at animals. That's just kind of our thing. We just like looking at animals.
Cool.
It's not much more complicated than that.
That's all you need, man.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. We get a lot out of zoos. We'll just we went to a zoo when we were in New Zealand.
Yeah.
We went and we saw penguins and a whole bunch of stuff.
Nice.
But enough about that. Enough about the mushy stuff. It's time for the hard-hitting games. And Huber, you've been playing a game. I've played a little bit of it, but you've played more than I have. You're reviewing it. Zombie Army 4 Dead War.
Yes. Very unfamiliar. This is my first Zombie Army game. Weirdly enough, I'd never really played them. I got into Sniper Elite 3, though. And since then, because I reviewed 3 and 4 for GT/EZA, and I fell in love with these games, and this is kind of a spin-off of that. One of the characters you can be, Carl Fairborn or whatever, is in Sniper Elite. Okay. So yeah, it's a co-op zombie game, 1 to 4 players. There's a campaign you can go through, like Left 4 Dead style, in the sense of you're going forward through these environments. There's 9 major missions, and then a separate horde mode as well.
I had a moment where it zoomed in on me shooting the testicles of a zombie, and I was like, oh, right.
Here we go.
This is the Sniper Elite people. That's their thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, yes, of course. The slow motion marksman sniping is there. And it's just a really chaotic game. I'm actually going through with my friend who I went through Wolfenstein Youngblood with.
Grumbomb?
Grumbom's assisting.
Grumbomb is my favorite name of anything.
You're going to see Grumbomb on the review. He's been assisting in the review process going through this game co-op. So just chugging away, trying to get through it. And it's just relentless. I mean, we played a mission, Jones, 50 minutes, dead.
Oh, man.
Game over. Go back,
not a cell.
Did you get any experience or anything?
Yeah. Okay. So it was it was a necessary failure because now we're that leveled us up.
You never
dying.
You never forget it.
Exactly.
For sure.
So
the first time you wipe an Eddie Dead Rising game and I got to start over. Okay.
I asked you to give me a one-word summation of the game before the show, and you said Relentless.
Yeah, it
which
is.
I liked a lot.
Yeah, so, I mean, the missions are... I'm kind of impressed the way that they've kind of cycled up the variety of objectives. You know, it's more than just get to point A, kill all the zombies, get to point B. You know, we gotta, nothing super new, but it's like, we gotta fix the generator. You have to now find with your compass where the parts are. You have to then grab them. Now you can all use your pistol. Do you go together? Do you split up? There's all these on-the-fly tactics that are going on. Then you got to bring it and defend the position. Then this whole boat is going through. You're on the boat, so it's pretty involved objectives rather than just go to point A and kill.
I think Left 4 Dead is a pretty solid baseline all around, and we've had a good number of Left 4 Dead. I gotta sneeze.
Do it. Oh yeah.
Woo! Frame trap sneeze.
Feels good.
Yep. Always feels good to sneeze on camera. We had World War Z last year, which I thought was solid. And playing this, I feel like it's solid. It's got those hooks that I like. It has a combo meter, and so you're like, all right, let me have them bunch all up. Okay, then they're gonna step on the mine, and then boom, and then my combo gets huge. Oh, it's just fundamental video game dopamine.
Yes.
But not an uncommon dopamine, right?
No.
This formula has been done to death. You've probably played it to death. Do you think...
No pun intended.
Right, there you go. Do you think that hurts this game? Do you think it makes it forgettable?
No. And I know Jones will back me up on this. Sometimes these are exactly the type of games you need or crave and want, right?
I mean, just the title alone, it doesn't sound like it's selling itself more than anything than what it sounds like.
You know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And
I find the Dead War subtitle a little bit funny, though, because if you're fighting a zombie army, isn't it implied that it's...
True. Again, I'm coming in. I've never played these. It gave me a little recap. Spoiler alert. I guess in one of the last ones... They kicked Hitler straight into a hell dimension.
Good to know.
So
a good place.
Yeah, and zombies are taking over the world. So
Where do you go from there?
Yeah, and I'm sure I think in one of the missions you go to hell. Very Doom-like.
Is this a full price game?
It's either 40 or 60.
Okay. So there are different characters. There are skills that you can upgrade and all that stuff. Have you found that to be meaningful or exciting or worth chasing after?
Yeah, because you're finding these upgrade kits, you're getting stronger because it is overwhelming odds. You feel each one of those. You feel the level ups. You can have 5 perks equipped at once. Every milestone, level 5, level 15 or whatever, you can equip additional perks. So I can only have 3 right now, but eventually you can have 5. Each one of the perks has 3 different ranks, bronze, silver, gold. Get 100 grenade kills, get 300, that kind of stuff. And then you're leveling up your weapons as well. So there's a lot to dive into, which great stream of dopamine.
Yeah, great stream of dopamine. I had one of the objectives was to stomp 10 or 15 zombies, something like that. And I found the stomp to be a little inconsistent.
It is, yes.
Which was frustrating and made chasing after that frustrating.
For sure.
I like, one of my favorite things about it is there are these attachments that you can find throughout the level. And one of them is just do you want to slap this lightning thing on your gun and just shoot lightning at zombies and have it spread? And so, I mean, it's already... inherently a goofy game, but over-the-top stuff like that, I think, adds to the flavor.
Yeah.
It's a little spicier.
And some of these enemies are ridiculous, Jones. It's like a Team Fortress Pyro coming in, unstoppable, and just the variety, too. Those ones, you need to hit the gas can on their back. Okay. Then you have these teleporting snipers that go around the rooftops, teleporting all over the place, sniping you. You got to take care of them. Then you have these dudes with shields who are lobbing grenades. You want to get them from behind. So just all the co-op vibe and working together and just the pace of the overwhelming odds is solid.
Can I just say I love how animated you are when you're describing anything? I mean, you did every action that you narrated. You were like, then you've got the snipers, there's this guy with the shield, you got to throw the thing over there, and then you go around the back. I mean, every single thing
I'm seeing the
Can
game.
you memorize where
right
dudes are
now.
going to come from? So do you know, like, all right, when we get to this phase, then those snipers pop up, so you can at least
I
kind
think
of
so.
prep.
Yeah, I think so.
Because
Because the boat ride had kind of those moments where we died and then we came back and was like, okay, now the sniper comes in.
Because I don't mind that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, especially like if it's a gauntlet, you know, that you can at least brace for those parts.
Yeah.
And anticipate that stuff.
Yeah.
I think something that is important for these games is like the drive to keep playing, because you mentioned getting 15 minutes in and then failing.
Yeah.
Was it like, all right, we're done for the night? Or I guess, or when you finish a mission even, do you feel like you want to immediately jump to the next one? Like, is there a strong incentive to keep going?
I don't know, and that's kind of the separation of like a great game between a good game. I'm really glad you asked that, Ben, because one and done or two and done, like I have to review it, so I push forward a little more. But like usually after one or two, it's like, all right, I'm pretty good, because you're killing a lot of zombies like over and over. And like, again, these upgrades are kind of hard to find for your guns, so I'm committed to the shotgun and the sniper rifle. So I'm really just using those 2 or 3 weapons over and over and over.
I feel naked, man.
Yeah.
If I don't have an assault, I just feel
like
I got nothing.
it's
Committing to just long range and super short range.
Yes,
is
it has me questioning a shotgun, Jones, where I'm like, dude, do I want to use the Thompson?
Yeah.
Like,
Really, the shotgun was definitely my go-to. In my time.
It's fun. It's really fun. So.
Yeah, that makes me think of Left 4 Dead, and particularly Left 4 Dead 2, because you mentioned just like, oh man, you're killing a lot of zombies. Like Left 4 Dead 2, you are killing a ton of zombies, but
You can do it
each
forever.
map is so distinct. Like there is something very specific in each map, and so no matter what happens in one map, you go and do another one, and despite the fact that you're fighting the same stock zombie and the same special zombies, how they implement them in the specific map makes it fun, and so it's easy to play a lot of it.
Yes. Whereas budget limitations for Zombie Army 4, everything kind of is drab and dreary. A lot of grays and muted colors. I do appreciate they do have more variety than even I was kind of expecting. Like, okay, yeah, we're really varying up these objectives and the aesthetic as much as we can, but they look different. But I think because of maybe the limited weapons and kind of just the limited tool set, it all kind of ends up feeling the same, even though the levels themselves do look a little bit different and the objectives are different. It still does kind of feel samey throughout. And I think
A mark against it.
Yeah.
But it sounds decent overall.
Solid.
Yeah. I'm excited to see the review.
Yeah.
See and hear.
Yes.
I'll hear your voice.
Yeah.
You'll be reading the words.
Yeah. I do love the frame trap, the aperitif, and then I get the main course afterwards, and I'm just like, and I get the script, and I'm like, oh, I remember how he felt about this. Let's see where he landed.
That's a $100 word there, Brandon.
Because I'm pretty sure I think that is one of a small thing you get in a meal. I might be missing that. It's a really bad thing if you use a word like that improperly. If the people in the company you use it in don't know what it is, and they're like, "Oh, good word," and you're like, "Yeah." The many viewers at home, and listeners at home,
no
are
idea.
like, Jones
you
botched
probably
that hard.
You probably said something highly inappropriate.
Because when it comes back to you for the next frame trap, I won't be here.
Yeah. I just got to take the brunt of it. Right. Brandon, you've been playing a lot of games. Oh,
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh.
I did want to shout out, I like creative healing mechanics.
Yeah.
I did want to bring this up. And the combo meter. You have to build a combo of times 10 in Zombie Army. So every time you build your combo meter up to 10, you can do a melee attack. So you got to get in there, and then when you do the melee attack, you get health. That's kind of an additional way
automatically?
to heal. Yeah, you'll kind of like a life steal. You'll get health. So it encourages getting the combo up, using those melee attacks. Additionally, if you miss shots, your combo drops. If you get hit, your combo drops. Obviously, it's going down as time is going down. So getting that combo meter up and keeping it up and getting the melee attacks for health is
that the only way to heal yourself?
There's also med kits, but they're extremely rare.
Right.
So rare.
Also, there's a skill that you can get where if you get a combo meter of 50, I believe it is, you actually also get health back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, 50
yeah, so
is
if you it's like 30 or 50, I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's on the higher end.
Nice.
And so that feels good.
Yeah.
And gives you a strong reason to
That's cool.
get that high in the first place.
Sweet. Wanted to shout that out.
Shout out to Temtem. I'm really excited to talk about this because
all the games I gave you were starting with Temtem.
well, the reason we're starting with Temtem is because we got a take on it. You said to me you would give me basically 180 impressions from what Kyle did. So I want to get the other
I'm Team
side.
Temtem.
Kyle is not
having a
Team
blast.
Temtem.
Yeah.
You are Team Temtem. I want to find out why.
I think I've played it way longer than Kyle has.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's
Wait, did you set the tone? Did you use the character you were using on the stream?
Nope.
Did you make a new character?
made a new character
Fresh
because
start.
that was like Damiani's profile.
Fresh
So
start.
I went home, bought it, created a new character. Named Brandman after our Silver Squad character. Bossman and Brandon put together. Brandman.
Okay.
Great.
That's cute.
In a tribute to Kyle, who
cute.
didn't like it. I was like,
Right.
"You're coming with me, Kyle.
You have to experience
We're
this.
going through this world together." And it's interesting because it's you can smell the budget. I mean, it's early access. You can tell that this is even though it is clean, like it does run well, it does look good consistently. You know, like there are a lot of things that I totally agree with that we said on stream. Like some of the backgrounds are a little weird. The camera's like totally locked. That's like not something that they were able to totally one up Pokemon on. But the faces are weird. There is jankiness just in seeing people. You know, it's a little jarring to get kind of immersed in this world and then just like, you know, some weirdo name goes running by and then just vanishes all of a sudden because he got into a random battle. Like some of that's a little bit distracting. At the same time, like with the exception of interiors, no loading. So there's just this humongous map, you know, that you can go and got to a point where I got on that airship that we saw on the stream and like got to a whole nother world. And they do. I think the main thing for me though, like the best thing I can say about Temtem, because it's like the biggest hangups that Kyle has, which like he's right. Like I haven't probably encountered one Temtem that I was like, that's better than any Pokemon I've ever seen in my life. You know, it's like
You've encountered a Temtem?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
Like all the Temtem I get are like, sure, you know,
Right.
and honestly, I don't think I think I'm mostly like a type hound right now, where I'm just like, I don't like this guy. Volja is the thing I named my electric one. Like he's the guy with the tail that just keeps flapping. It's really distracting, keeps flapping back and forth. Not my favorite guy. The only other electric dude is just like weird Joker guy with like a big smile, like a big scarf. And I was just like, nah, you know, so I'm like, I'm not in love with my options here, but so he's, you know, Kyle, I'm sure, I did not hear his rant on Frame Trap, but I'm sure he's right in saying that design-wise, it does not, you know, give really Pokemon a run for its money in the actual, like, Temtem department.
Yeah.
But one thing that it does do that I actually, in going through the emotional journey of playing Pokemon Red and then Pokemon Sun and then Pokemon now Silver and Shield with Kyle playing all the other ones simultaneously with me. One of the major things I hate about Pokemon is just the stories are like, whatever. Like, not only the stories I just don't care about, but like the storytelling. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I can go on a route. And it's like, what a gift for a storyteller to literally have like a linear route that you go and meet people. Yeah. And just every person I meet, I'm like, that's all you got? Cool. Like, what are you, even in some cases, like, what are you doing here? Like, what, this doesn't make, I got into the desert and then here's a dentist? Like, what's going on? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so it's one thing to like not take advantage of your structure. It's like if Pokemon takes the "it ain't broke, don't fix it" approach, and they're like, this is just the way we make these games. This is the way we're always going to make these games. If we branch out in one direction, we're going to do it kind of in a gimmick sense, or it's going to feel so detached from the main experience. And the story is, I mean, obviously, you crack open Sword and Shield, and it has this amazing cinematic, and you see this huge, you know, gym. It doesn't have that kind of gravitas. But the NPCs are really interesting. Like, interesting conversations. You get dialogue options. Like, they know who you are. Like, they kind of reference stuff that I've done in the past. I bump into other people in other locations. Like, I'll go in somewhere and be like, oh, you're that guy. And he's like, yeah, I'm here because I told you I was going to be here, remember? Like, yeah, awesome. You did. There's, like, one guy I went to... and his kids, so the dad's sitting outside of the house, the mom is inside, and the three kids are all inside, and they're all frustrated because the family is not very wealthy, and they all have aspirations for certain careers, but they just don't have connections to do that. And they live in kind of like a maritime village, so like you have to like get a big boat to get out of there, even though it's literally just like a stone's throw away from the beach that you come from. And then each kid, like one's an artist, one wants to become a Temtem, study, scholar, and you encounter people throughout the game that you're like, oh, you're an artist. Would you want somebody to study with you? And they're like, oh yeah. So you go back, get them, and then they go forward, and then you meet them later, and they're in a totally different location, and they're like, my life has changed. Thanks so much for doing this. And it's like, I know these things I'm saying are like not that revolutionary for video games, but for Pokemon they are. Like sure. Pokemon doesn't even begin to do that. It's like you meet a person, they say a thing, you're done. Whereas like I just went through a part where like somebody was pretending to be me. Somebody was like doing villainous things and using my name.
Awesome.
So when I bump into people, they'd be like, it's you. And I'm like, no, it's not. You think I'm someone else. And you can be like antagonistic against them, or they'll be very playful sometimes about... I try to be very courteous when I meet people, but almost every opening dialogue option has like, so Temtem? Or like, oh, you want to Temtem up? And
it's like Witcher 3 and Gwent.
Yeah. So if you meet somebody and they're like, oh, hey, isn't this a nice view that I'm here? And you're just like, yeah, so you want to play Temtem? I don't do that because I'm curious to hear all of their dialogue options. So I usually start with the most, like the one that'll open up a normal conversation. But, and if you are done with someone and you go back and talk to them, they have an air of like, you're done with me. We did that quest. There's no reason. I'm still here. People move sometimes. I met one important character on a beach and then she left, and I had to it's like, oh, I wonder where she is. And I think she might be in this location. I went like, there she was. And the story continued from where that went. And so it is like, the reason I've been playing so much of it is it's just very smooth. It's very welcoming. It's the one thing that I've seen people in the forums complaining about, I've seen people online complaining about, and like, I'm not saying it's not true, but just for me, I'm going to breeze right past that, is it's super grind heavy.
Yeah.
But whatever, for me, it's not that big of a deal. I don't need all of my Temtem to be rock stars. I've kind of like, drilled in. There's like one guy who's kind of like Raticate, basically. He's just like a little fox dude who's like normal type, and I'm just like a neutral type, they call it. And I'm just like, okay, I'm swapping you for a, mental type AK psychic. Like first chance I get, but for right now, it's fine. But like just a lot of fun things. It's been really interesting, and I'm probably in a unique position to appreciate Temtem because I'm so new to Pokemon. But there's so many things that jumping into Red, I was like, oh, this evolves considerably over the years. And Kyle's like, not really. And then I played Sun, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's how far we've come. And then now I've played 2 sequels back to back, the most recent ones. Now I've gone into Shield. And it's interesting having little bits like when you get the surfboard, which is the equivalent of your Pokemon swimming when you finally get to do stuff. You don't have to queue it up. You just go. You just walk out onto the water and your board pops up. And it's like a surfboard. You can kind of like surf around.
Fun.
And there's one mechanic where there's a crystal on the ground that's actually the crystal that they mine to make the Temtem cards. And you just slip across it. So there's some parts you can kind of like, wobble your way through to get somewhere. And then some parts, if you look at the map, you can clearly tell like, okay, I can't get there. But then later you get skates, and now you can just freely whee, and you like make a little pattern when you're skating. And it's actually kind of fun to like weave through those areas. So it's just it's just an enjoyable game. It's something fun for me because it's not, I don't get a sense of desperation. I don't get a sense of like, Pokemon sucks, we're taking them over. It's just like, we just wanted to do these things. We wanted to realize this. We wanted to have a big environment you're going through. There were moments of Shield, even on like the Switch, which, produced Breath of the Wild, that I would walk into a route and see the loading screen for the route right there. It's like literally like 10 steps away is the spot where I'm just going to go to a load and then load up the next area. And I just keep on walking through this world.
Yeah, you're definitely, as someone who loves worlds and I think loves just interconnectedness, I can imagine that being a big deal. In comparison to Pokemon, you mentioned the grinding briefly and how that wasn't a big deal for you because you love to grind, but something that was frustrating to me in Pokemon generally, but just most recently with Pokemon Sword, is I felt like playing through the game, it wasn't really making me utilize the battle system to the fullest extent.
Yes.
And that was frustrating, but it was made even more frustrating because I'm somebody that likes to go and catch a lot of Pokemon. Catching Pokemon is my favorite thing. And I felt like in Pokemon Sword, if I messed around even a little bit, I was taking something that was already pretty easy and making it completely trivial.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
That's all I was doing. And with Temtem, I hear that it's more difficult. I hear that it's more interesting. I hear that it's more... Well, more often than not, I hear it's more grindy.
If you play against type, nothing will happen.
Sure.
If you use a type against something that's not working against, like that health meter will go. Just like you have to use something, even something that, and it's really nice because what I think is interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but if you fight against something in Pokemon, Shield and Sword will remember its type, remember its weaknesses, and will label them as such.
Correct.
In Temtem, you got to catch it. So only when you actually have something, including evolutions. So if something evolved into something else and maybe gained a type or something, you're as far as you don't know, it shows up as a little white circle when you select them. Gotcha. But once you have actually caught the thing, then it shows up either red, don't use it, white, doesn't matter, or green if it's like that's super useful against that. But I switch out stuff in Temtem way more than I do in Pokemon
because you feel like the game's demanding it, right?
Oh yeah. And that's kind of what I mean by grinding is that like what you need to level these suckers up. You need to commit to a team if you want to progress. And one of the reasons I don't necessarily fault that for Temtem is because it's early access. You boot that game up and they have like a very well worded text screen that's like, we're working on this game. It's like you're going to encounter bugs. You're going to encounter weird things. I think it crashed once. I don't think I've actually encountered anything super weird. One time I swapped out a fun little thing when you Temtem remembers all its abilities. So if you want to swap out the 4 abilities it has, it remembered everything else too. So you don't have to like make that call of like, I'm dropping it and this Temtem's forgetting this thing forever. It's just like, no, it's off to the side, which makes me question like maybe I haven't played enough Pokemon, but why wouldn't you? I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I guess because you want to make the investment.
Hard choices,
but that's something that's so meta.
Awesome.
Like when people recommend stuff during Silver Squad, it's like, that's 20 years of Pokemon right there talking. Like I don't know if I know that Rage isn't that great. It's like and even chat's like mixed. So it's just nice, especially for something early access. They might change it for the full release. Just not worry about it. Sure. One time I accidentally hit X and was like, and then I was like, oh, that's right. I got it. I still have it. I can go back. And I think one time I swapped someone's move, went into a battle, used the move, and it used the move that used to be there. And I was like, aha! And they're like, that was it. Like that was really the only glitch. And
it allows you to be more experimental, especially where like with something like Pokemon, you have decades of experience you can look on the internet like, hey, how good is this move? Where is it used? Whereas with Temtem, with this especially being the first outing, it allows you, I think, to feel more confident and experimental, which I think is good. I love it when games make you unafraid to make a bad decision. I think that's always good.
And I think, again, because it's early access, I think they want the people going through to spend some time. I want you to have lots of fights. I want it to take time for to level these characters up. It still is great though because you got I think it's called the Coward's Cloak, which is a funny name for it, but it's the XP share. And so so I can level up 3 because you go into every fight with 2 Temtems. So it's like if I have one guy that's way over leveled, I'm already leveling up the guy next to him, and then I can have a 3rd on the side.
Nice.
The Coward's Cloak.
The Coward's Cloak.
Shots fired.
I don't know. It's pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't think it did a good job of really selling. Oh man, there's a lot going on here in this world. It's like, no, I'm just a dude, and I'm gonna go out and capture some Temtem. But like, just the way that the world is built, the way they introduce things, it feels so much more like an actual functioning world that has Temtem in it versus like Pokemon's just like, everyone's into this. Everybody, It's kind of like what Box Peak makes fun of, It's
right.
like it's less hard to make fun of the story in Temtem. It's just much more self-aware. There's a lot of things. Oh, one thing that I really love, especially for early access, that I think is super clever, there will be signs on a door that just says work in progress, and the NPCs will acknowledge it. Like you'll go up and be like, oh, that's closed. And she's like, yeah, and I'm pissed. NPC's like, yeah, it's my, that's the place where I work, and I can't work there now because it's closed. I'm just like, oh, cool. There was one of the first ones I found was like off in a corner, and there was a guy just pacing in front of it. And he's like, you know when this thing's opens? And I was like, no. And he's like, I walked all the way over here and it's not open. That's stupid. It's like, cool. So yeah, it's very self-aware. Like these people, they know what they're making. They know, I think their expectations are set at a good place. When I see people frustrated with it, I think they have the wrong idea going into a game like this. Maybe it's the idea that I have for every Pokemon game. It's just like, whatever, I'm just here to have fun.
Jones, it is a online game. Are you excited about the prospect of hitting the end game, leveling up, and battling against other players or battling alongside them?
Sure,
are you focused on the end game now, or are you just taking it one day at a time?
I have not done
the
any
story?
of that. I didn't realize that until I just started talking about it and looked at you. That I was like, I haven't done any. I haven't really tested the MMO nature of this game. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Quite frankly, I don't know if I haven't been introduced to that yet. I
probably
just
way
like
later.
everything in MMOs. I'm way more curious about all the co-op stuff. I don't really need to prove myself. It'd be fun to just get like wasted,
Couple battles.
yeah, to just get completely, dunked on in going up against somebody. But it's interesting seeing some just societal MMO tropes carry into, like I mentioned, people popping out of all over the place. Seeing somebody just run, you get to like a new area and it's like, oh, look at this beautiful vista. And there's a tree and some guy just running around the tree. It's just like I'm watching someone else play Pokemon. That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's also fun that you have like the guy that's like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to the early beach, and he's got like the leveled up version of the starter. You're like, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for spoiling that for me. And it's interesting. There was one area. I don't know if this was because people bailed at this point, but there was one part where it had the vibe that you were alone, that like you weren't really supposed to be in an area where a bunch of other people are. And I moved out of that area, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people appeared. So I was like, oh, there are instanced areas where, for the sake of the story, they want to say that. But I wasn't even expecting a story, anything close to it.
Yeah.
And there's been like points in the story where I clearly move from one point to another, get on the airship for the first time, go to the next area. When I leave that area and go to the new area, like they do a thing. And I'm like, oh, whoa! I thought I was gonna go to a purple area now, and like, wow, there's more stuff going on here than I expected. Team Rocket's like their Team Rocket's like way more established, and granted, none of this is original as a structure. But I think they're pretty smart about setting people's expectations, and I'm curious how they're going to launch this thing. I'm curious how long it's going to be in early access and what the end game even looks like. If it just stops, or if there's a lot of periphery stuff that they haven't finished.
Jones, I think you've done a phenomenal job of describing this game, and you're making me realize I wish Framestrap could be more like this, where I loved getting Kyle on here last time, and him giving a very, like, he was just looking for very different things than what you were looking for. And so I think you were able to fill in areas that maybe he wasn't as interested in.
Ain't nothing wrong with Kyle's take.
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Kyle's take.
I'm just saying that, because I'm being very flowery and supportive of this game. Whereas, like, that's I played my first Pokemon game 3 years ago, so you need Kyle's take. You need the take of someone coming in. Kyle's take is represented in a lot of the stuff I've read online of people like, meh.
But smashing the two of you together, I think it's a more well-rounded take. And after hearing Kyle's take and then watching you play it, I was pretty out. But what you described and what you've touched on has made me more curious about Temtem than I have ever been. By quite a bit.
One thing that we can do in co-op that we did see represented, which is hilarious because I bumped into these guys now. I'm like, oh, you're that Temtem they gave us. Remember that one guy just traded out of nowhere? And we were like, we don't even know where this guy's in the world. And just somebody saw our name and saw that we were playing, and so and we couldn't use them yet because we didn't have a Pokemon that was as high level as them.
A Temtem,
sorry.
Got him.
And there are Pokemon jokes in there. There's a truck that you go up to, and like there's NPCs like, I swear I saw something under that truck, and you're like, what? And you like walk up to the truck. Do you know this? Do you get the joke?
Yeah, I get the joke.
Do you get the joke, Huber? It was where people thought Mewtwo was.
Mew, I believe it was Mew,
but like it wasn't there. Wasn't this like a pop fax that like
it was like, you can move the truck,
but like that was just a rumor,
right? Exactly.
So there's a rumor about fiction. This truck. Yeah, it was.
Watch, we're completely butchering this, but I know what you're referencing.
There was a mythos surrounding a truck in a Pokemon game where people like pixel by pixel just sniffed out this truck.
I'm pretty sure if it was
so
Mew.
you go by a place and there's a guy next to you who's like, I swear I saw something under that truck, and you examine the truck and your NPC's like, I don't see anything, dude. I don't know. So there's a fun. It just doesn't take itself seriously, and I appreciate that.
It doesn't take itself seriously, but what you're describing and like even that reference, like these are clearly people that live and breathe Pokemon, and have for their entire lives. And I don't know. I love that we're seeing that more and more, where these people are inspired by these past things and like, let's make it better, or let's put our own spin on that. I love that there's the liberty to do that now. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it just doesn't, because I think we've played these before, games that are like parodies of other games.
Yeah.
And this is just not that. Like, it has that element in there. You will enjoy that if you're looking for it. But I was surprised. Yeah, it wants to make Pokemon better, but it loves Pokemon at the same time. Not a lot of Temtem too. Another huge stab at the game, obviously, because it's early access. It's like you're gonna bump into those dudes a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's actually a pretty big bummer for me as someone who enjoys catching a lot, seeing the same ones over and over. Definitely.
Give it a couple months. Give it a couple months.
My top guy's like 42,
so many.
and I think I have like 20 something Temtem. You know, it's like. But again, another reason for like let's focus on the dynamics of these characters to make sure we get this right, and then we can add more people, more abilities, and hopefully make it better.
Cool.
We'll see. Will it be in early access for ever like Fortnite or what?
I don't think it'll be out this year, out of early access. If I had to bet.
Yeah,
if I were to bet.
You've been burned by early access before.
Yeah, it just takes a while.
It just takes a while.
It takes a very long time.
Yeah.
So I'm not holding my breath for the
Did you ever end up playing the Forest? Because I know you wanted to.
Forest. Oh my god.
That was like the one early access
the
game.
number
we
one
kept
is
talking
it out
about.
game of
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah, it's finally out. It's on consoles.
Did you
It's been
play it?
out. No, but we should stream it. We should
Okay.
stream it, dude.
Forest.
We should stream that.
I was so into it the first time I saw it, and I just couldn't help. The premise was so gold, but it just took too long.
Hyped for Hades, Ben. That's all I want.
Oh man.
All I friggin' want.
I've been seeing a lot of people stream Hades, and it looks like my kind of game. I just
Give me
haven't given it a shot yet. There's too many things.
That's
Well,
Supergiant, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Supergiant. Yeah.
Early access still. Just I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Cool. Yeah, I forgot.
See,
about
the
that.
early access tag doesn't scare me. I'm ready to jump
If
in.
you use it right.
Yeah. Oh
if
yeah.
you do it, Dreams. Just this week, they finally did it, and that's the question. That's why I wonder about Temtem is like, what will they do? How will they embolden their? Will my progress carry over? I hope. And will they empower those big fish that have been around for a long time to then turn it around and go help the little people coming in? You know, will it be a community that embraces the new people coming in when it launches? Can it separate itself? Are we going to be asking ourselves like, wait, didn't Temtem launch? Or is it going to be clear like, oh wait, no, yeah, that kind of fell off the radar, but they're back.
I feel like something Temtem has going for it is the dedicated Pokemon audience, and I'm not just talking about the people that casually play. I'm talking about the dedicated Pokemon audience. They're like one of the most dedicated audiences there is.
Oh, yeah.
And so like
The most if you are just by money. you
right.
know?
Like the amount the ways in which they communicate, the intensity with which they communicate, the amount of research that they pour into it, like the Pokemon community is so fascinating to just observe, I think, because there's so many different ways in which people appreciate those games, and I'm curious to see how that develops with Temtem, especially it being early access.
And if those experts have analyzed Temtem and like certified it trash, I cannot argue with that.
Right.
I'm just enjoying
They will
this
objectively
game.
prove to you why.
this game I'm running through.
So I just mentioned how there's too much stuff to play, and I've been running in a weird direction. Abby and I have been playing the original Tomb Raider. PS1 Classic on PS3. That's the version that we're playing. I wish we had played PC because you can save anywhere, but it's fine.
The little gems, the little blue
The
gems.
gems, yes. That once you use them, they're gone, and so you will run into
That's
instances. You will run into instances where you
So
save, and then you're
brutal.
like, "Wait, I should have saved that save." So you really have to. It's actually very Resident Evil-esque.
Ink ribbon.
Yeah, where you have to really think about when and how you're going to save, which is kind of a cool element. It can be very annoying. But yeah, I've played Tomb Raider 1 before. I've actually never made the effort to go all the way through it because it's a tough game.
Yeah.
And in many ways. And I the first Tomb Raider I played, I think I got it as a gift, was Tomb Raider 2 growing up. But Tomb Raider 1, it's so fascinating. This game, I feel like I could talk about it for an hour because you take New Tomb Raider, which I think is valid in its own way, but it's just completely different than what that original Tomb Raider game was all about. Because this is a game where you do fight things, and you fight things regularly, but it's not about fighting at all. Like, it is about, like, panning a room
Puzzles.
and being like, not even...
How do I get there?
How do I get there?
yeah.
Right. And like every jump, there are moments when Abby and I are playing where it's like, we're not sure where to go. We think we can jump there. Can we jump there? And the game is like, yes. But the only way you're going to be able to make it is if you time a running jump correctly and you don't jump until the last possible moment, and then you're not even sure, and so you're like your butt is clenched as you're reaching out, and then you finally grab it. And they
you feel the squares.
Yeah,
the world is
squares.
The world's made of squares.
Yes.
And so you really quickly learn how long that square is.
Right.
Like what 2 steps equals 1 square.
Right. And it's fascinating because, and it actually kind of made me mad in a way at modern adventure games like Assassin's Creed or Tomb Raider or Uncharted, where like I think that is a really good approach. But I think about how many times I've played those games and I've just been at a wall and I've just hit up. And it's like the game is pretty much playing itself.
Sure.
Like when I'm jumping from ledge to ledge, it's not a
Huber's feeling it.
effort of dexterity. And I think that's something that I really respect about Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And it's janky and it's old and you feel that every minute of the game. But I think the spirit of it, of actually making you feel like you are scaling these dangerous environments, like the platforming is tough enough that these caves and these tombs and whatever you're in actually feel threatening.
Like
I
Assassin's
really
Creed
dig that.
1 and 2 has that bend where it's like climbing something is a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, wait, I can't go up here. Okay, back down, around here. Or like, leaping to platforms and just kind of figuring out how to get somewhere. They've abandoned that. I do love that.
And you don't even just do the same thing every time. Like you have a standing jump, which is very useful in specific situations. And then you've got a running jump, which is very useful in specific situations. Then you have a side jump and a backflip, which is great for avoiding enemies. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like you have a varied tool set in something that isn't a Mario game, you know what I mean? Because Mario jumping is trying to accomplish a very different feeling than Tomb Raider jumping, where it's not about like speed or bounciness really, it's about I don't know, it's
about big air.
It's a kind of about big air, yeah.
It's tough for me to find a term for it. Shadow of the Colossus, and it's my favorite game that does this. It's just the
yeah.
Right.
It's just that leap of faith, man, when you when you take off from a ledge and you're just like, please.
Do you remember this, Jones? The game trailers?
I remember game trailers.
Do you remember the retro we did? Or for Tomb Raider, it was either retro or timeline.
Oh, we did a retro, man.
Okay.
No, I got...
Dude.
Well, that's the thing, was you were talking about, it is an old game. I got straight Tomb Raidered out. I think Tomb Raider was the most tired I got of a franchise while I was working on the retro.
Yeah.
Because once you get into 3 and 4, I mean, it's just the same.
It was the intern's job to capture and beat the original Tomb Raiders, and we were going through trying to land some of these jumps.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so frustrating but awesome, Ben, because like you were saying just like jumping at the last second and then you fall and you've got to go like all the way back.
And
I'm
watching all this footage and cackling the whole time.
We were just always like taking turns.
I could see them so frustrated. But it's also really it's interesting. Have you looked anything up? Have you just literally been...
Oh, no. We've definitely looked plenty
But
up.
even when you look up,
yeah.
it's like you want to go to the third block to the left and then above that to the right and then you turn around and then jump out and you're like, you lost me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Even following it beat by beat.
Right.
Like, whoa, there's just so... And it's a good thing because you have that fear, like you were saying, that's kind of been taken out. Even something like Spider-Man, it's just like, it's exhilarating to jump around New York, but it's not scary. It's...
you die, you're gonna load back in.
Well, you can't even hit the ground in some instances. You'll just bounce off of it. So
speaking
got
of
teeth, Tomb Raider 1's got teeth.
Yeah, it does. I think that's a really good way to describe it. Is it's got teeth. But speaking of looking up stuff up, I think a big part of that and something where the age does affect it is you will go into rooms and you're like, wait a minute, I've actually lost my place because every texture is brown and they're all the same. Or it's like you have one square of wallpaper that is like copy and pasted, and so it's just
and moves while you're moving the camera, it jiggles. The
yeah.
PS1 jiggle.
And the camera is also like a nightmare. Like, yeah, you can hold L1 and look around freely, but it's not like freely. You feel like you're constantly fighting it to get a good perspective. And so in those ways, I think the technology is working against it, but the spirit of it and actually feeling like you're going to it on an adventure, and like the way, in some ways it's kind of cheap, and they do use it cheaply sometimes, but they they kind of want to give you those like Indiana Jones panic moments where you open a door and like a lion will run out or a boulder will fall down or, you make the wrong jump and, oh no, there are spikes underneath it. And it's awesome. And the way that it uses music, I don't know, maybe people have given a lot of credit to this, but probably not enough because this is a game that is mostly in silence.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing about it is you're just kind of hearing Lara's grunts and stuff, and then once you kind of get into a big open area, you get like really beautiful music. Or when you finally run into an enemy, and it'll go and it really accentuates those moments. And it's actually kind of like Death Stranding in that way. That's something that I appreciate about Death Stranding is the silence really made you kind of get immersed into whatever area you were trudging through.
Footsteps are a big deal.
For sure. Yeah, oh yeah.
Sure. They change depending on different, surfaces. And one thing that I've always given credit to Aliens vs. Predator and the Atari Jaguar, which I know all of you have played. But one thing that is poor about the technology of that game but works for the terror is nothing makes sound when it moves. And so like you'll go into a hallway and be like, what's over to the left side? And an alien's sprinting at you and you don't know because it takes forever to look over to the right side. And then by the time it's right there and it's all you hear is the scream and a slash. And there's just a bear like right away in Tomb Raider. I think it's like it might be in the first, not the first like area, but the first like level. You go in towards the first thing, you bump into maybe like one or two bears, and like I don't think there's a bear intro song. The bear just rushes you, and like there are some really good parts of that game where you don't get the attacks, and so you're just like you're looking in the wrong direction. You're like, okay, I'll go back this way, and like wolves, you're like, whoa, So, and there's one thing I think. I've only played a little one of Uncharted 2, but I've only finished Uncharted 1 and 4. I don't remember a lot of that Indiana Jones insta-death, that Dark Souls. You opened the wrong door, dude. And you just have to know. Because that's fun. And I remember it was fun seeing Lara just get taken out, and like it really made a big impact.
Oh man, when you miss a jump and she's screaming on the way down and then just crunch. Yeah.
There's just for me, because you're still playing, right?
Yeah.
When you get to the last boss,
3 levels left.
When you get to the last boss, you get to the longest drop in the entire game. It's right. You fight on a boss platform, and then if you fall off that platform, it's just like 20 stories straight down, just once. After you save it, just for Jonesy,
okay.
And then she takes a breath and then starts screaming again. It's really great.
But yeah, it is kind of a trial of endurance, Tomb Raider 1, and. Yeah, even looking plenty of stuff up, I like on one hand, I've enjoyed the experience so much that like I want to jump into Tomb Raider 2 and then 3 and then Last Revelation, all these things that I've dabbled in before, but I also feel like I'm gonna need a break, Like I don't know if I could do them back to back.
I'm glad you talked about just the spirit of it, because the spirit of Tomb Raider is awesome, but it's like that's it. That's old technology, like games age and like.
Right.
Tomb Raider is a janky game just trying to like jump back into. You gotta like, it's not gonna be kind, like you gotta work, you gotta be patient, you definitely gotta be in the mood. So just like charging through all of them in a row is probably a lot.
But that uniqueness is really a benefit to the game, I think, because I love games. I often feel like the games that I respond to, at least recently, the strongest to, are the games where I can easily see myself being better over time. And like I remember playing the very first set of levels in Tomb Raider versus where we are now, and like even just doing running jumps consistently was a problem for me, and now it's not at all. And it's just like I feel like I've learned the language of the game through practice and effort, and that is really rewarding. Like you still mess up and you it's still hard, but the way you jump and move in Tomb Raider, the old Tomb Raider, is not really like anything else I've ever experienced.
And it sucks in the PS1 to have to go back, 10 minutes earlier when you die if you saved it in a poor place.
Right.
But when you go back through these rooms for like the 8th time, you're just like flip, grab, flip. And the swimming is pretty solid.
Yeah. I was actually telling that to Huber
Tomb Raider 1,
not that long ago.
Tons of swimming, tons of underwater stuff, tons of scary, I'm running out of breath, and just really smooth the way she moves, the way she
you have a lot of
animates.
control.
The dive was like a little Easter egg. You had to know what button to press, kind of like going to the previous weapon in GoldenEye. Like it's not in the instruction manual.
No.
You got to know how to do it.
How do you? Okay, so I've done the dive accidentally,
right?
And I've seen other people do the dive, but I don't know how to. I only do it accidentally, and it drives me nuts.
L1. You're holding down a button when you press it. It's the same thing as have you done the dismount out of the pool? When she,
Well,
or
the
just when
legs,
you climb up
the-
on a
yeah,
ledge,
yeah.
and she'll go straight
yeah,
up.
and
then
it just
do an
seems like it does
elegant,
that
like,
randomly
roll
too.
down.
She does this amazing thing, audience, where you'll pull yourself up and she'll like flip one leg and then another leg. And I don't know what causes
She'll
that
do it to a
either.
handstand straight up, and then she'll like
Yeah.
gracefully, kind of like a ballerina.
Yeah,
Sick.
it's really cool.
But yeah. So in some ways, like it does, and like it's got a like ton of voice acting, really like tons of cinematics. You know, like it was.
If
it
you
was
haven't
a-
seen the Tomb Raider 1 cinematics in a while,
Yeah.
do yourself a favor and watch those. Yeah. Oh,
but
man.
one thing honestly that does hold up, Huber, that I really dug was, and I'm definitely like an apologist for old draw distance engines in games. When they're used well, a la like Silent Hill 1 and 2, when it's just like, oh, you can only see that far, but it's part of the plot. I love like I don't know if you've gone to the Sphinx room yet.
Yes.
But like I just,
We
I-
just
I-
did
that
that,
will
actually.
always stay with me. Like the first time I went in and I was like, oh, all I see is darkness. And I'm like walking toward, and then just the Sphinx like comes out of that darkness. I'm like, whoa! Like they knew
So
just how
rad.
big enough to make those rooms. Like the T-Rex, which is not too much of
the
a spoiler
T-Rex.
because it's right away.
Yeah.
Like it's not very far into that game, but like it's just close enough that you're like, oh, what a beautiful little job. Like
Right.
if you'd seen it far enough away, you'd probably turn around and run away. But like once if you don't know it's there and you're running right as you see that guy pops into distance that you can see, you
it's-
better start doing some backflips and firing.
It's cool because in the Sphinx room they actually like pan out the camera to kind of
Yeah.
let you get the full scale of it. But yeah, man, it's been very delightful.
Cool.
Man, Shadow of the Tomb Raider disappointed me.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider
Shadow.
disappointed me. I think we're
didn't
also
touch
dabbling
either
in
of the
Rise,
sequels.
which I've
Even
dabbled in
Rise, I
plenty of
like the
times.
first one the most. It was like a steady
I-
decline for me of those three.
I don't think I've played the first one since I played it on the 360. I forgot it came out on the 360 because I know there was a PS4 version.
Yep.
But yeah, shout out to Tomb Raider.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Tomb Raider. I'll be
Tomb
back.
Raider-
Shout out to the movie.
The leap from Tomb Raider 1
Sequel
to
coming.
2 is great. I do recommend checking out 2.
I mean, I've played some 2 before.
there's a
so-
Venice level that's just so great. Getting boats and it's really really fun. 3 and 4 are not as fun of just jumps.
Well,
the stuff that they added
there's
was not
5
fantastic.
PS1 Tomb Raiders. It's Tomb Raider 1, 2,
forgot.
3, Last Revelation, and Dark Chronicle or Chronicles, something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you see the newer movie?
No, I haven't.
You should
I
watch
want
it.
to.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we'll like
um,
cap off Tomb Raider
It's
1.
it's solid.
And the Game Boy Color game.
Is it? I didn't know
Fun
there was a
animation.
Game Boy Color game.
really good director doing the sequel to it. So the next Tomb Raider that's coming out, like start the hype now. Really good director on it.
With the same actress?
Yep. Solid.
Q.
Jones, there's been one game I think for like the last month you've been telling me you've been excited to talk about on Frame Trap, and that is Greedfall.
I'm so happy I'm here for this.
Greedfall. It was so funny because I'm such a champion of this game. I had such fun playing this game, and then we were doing best sevens of the Goaties. And it's like Greedfall Jones. I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
let's pass it along.
Heck.
Yeah, that's surprising, especially how much you would bring it up.
Yeah.
I didn't review this game. People said I should. Some people actually reached out to me on Cup of Jones and other places, and they were like, "I am shocked you're not playing Greedfall." And I was like, "Yeah, there's a lot of games, and it's not coming up in conversations, and it's just not. I really should be spending my time with Outer Worlds, Death Stranding, Outer Wilds, and other stuff." And then I went to my friend's house, my friend who co-wrote the Final Fantasy retrospective, my friend who I've done all my D&D campaigns with, my buddy Todd. And I went over and he's like, "Greedfall, have you seen this? Have you heard about this?" And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, it's tricorns and rifles and petticoats, and it kind of seems like our jam because we're both like really into gothic horror. And he's like, "Let me show you Greedfall." Shows me for 5 minutes, and I was like, "This is my game! Oh my god, absolutely have to play this." And
Just
so
purely
it's like
from an aesthetic level.
just purely from aesthetics. Yeah, it was kind of the same with Bloodborne. It was like you could talk systems and weapons all day. I'm playing this because it looks and sounds the way it does. And Greedfall is one of those games where if all you have are criticisms of Greedfall, I doubt I will disagree with you. But I loved it so much. The closest comparison that I can make, if someone is kind of interested in seeing that aesthetically, it's Dragon Age. It took me about like 3 or 4 hours when I was getting into it. And I was like, "Oh, it's Dragon Age!" Like I'm going through closed-off hallway-esque areas that sometimes broaden out into big, spaces, and sometimes have little secret pockets. And there's fast travel and stuff. But I got my 2 little buddies, and then the cast is not massive, but I have 2 friends that I can pick that they obviously have story conflicts. There's fun places, kind of like Outer Worlds where like, and this actually didn't happen until way later in the game, but I was about to walk into a building and one character was like, no. And I'm like, what? We're going? And they're like, they hate me in there, man. I can't go in there. I was like, oh, they totally do. That's right. I guess I just thought about that beforehand because I was like, oh, we're going to go talk to the natives. You should come with me. But the basic story is it's like you're in London, like a London-esque area that has this island that is pretty far away. It takes like a month to get there. And this society is just like fascinated with this place. And it's interesting because like magic does exist in this world. Like there are scholars of it, but it's not like a huge deal. It's kind of like Witcher. Like not a lot of people can use it. Got an update.
This happened the last episode. Keep talking, Jones.
And so you are the cousin of the guy that's being sent by his dad to go rule this place.
Okay.
So he and I one thing that I really liked that Greedfall did is that it wasn't really predictable in like a boring way with a lot of its characters. So when like I first met my cousin, I was like, oh, it's okay. This is the douchebag that's going to run it and he's going to be stupid and egotistical and everything. Like, no, not really. You know, like he likes you a lot. Like, oh, he's going to betray me in some dumb way. And like, nope, he's fine. You know, like I like that the characters I could tell where they were coming from and I could tell the worlds that they came from, but they weren't afraid to go outside of that. It wasn't the kind of Outer World situation because I remember you brought up a point with Parvati like stopped you and was like, no, don't do this. It didn't get that extreme. But basically, so you're sent as this ambassador and then your cousin is ruling this, you know, supposedly this whole island. He's trying to, but he's just kind of stationed in this one city. And then you are the one who's kind of traveling the world and going to the other cities and meeting them. And you've never been here before. And so you're meeting what these cultures are like. And these cultures hate other cultures. And you realize why. But is it that, you know, do I tell them why they're being a-holes? Or do I try to fix this from the inside out? Or, you know, when do I get aggressive? When do I say you're being stupid? You should be nice to these people. When do I just accept? You know what? That's how you're... Kind of like Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah. You know how like as a protagonist, you know, Aloy learns a lot more than the people do. And so you're like, what do I do with this information? Do I shock you with it? Or do I just let the world tick the way it does because it'll change things too much, you know, to alter stuff. So there's a lot of like diplomacy. There's a lot of, and a lot of the characters that you meet, there's a lot of stuff with the tribes that are on this island. So there's a lot of native people who absolutely hate the people where you come from, and you have this marker on your face that is the same marker that a lot of these tribal people have, and so they kind of recognize you as one of them. They're like, well, why do you, if you have that, why do you're from that town, but you're clearly from here, and you're like, no, I'm from that town. Wink. But it's pretty obvious. But sure. It's the relationships are done so in just an interesting way. The only thing, I think one of the main things that got really tiring after a while is there's not a lot of fetch quests in terms of items, but there's a lot of like, oh, I got to go talk to that lady again. And like, I got to like go downstairs and walk out of the door and then go around the corner and go into her house and ask her a question and then turn right back around and go back in someplace else. And so that got a little tiring over a while. But to change gears from a gameplay standpoint, because you are someone that studies skill trees extensively, Ben Moore.
Combat in RPGs ends up being important.
So this is a very action-oriented combat RPG. I settled into my role almost immediately when my buddy Todd showed me that he was a mage. So he was like, check me out. I'm doing AoEs and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Like, I never needed MP. That was a meter. I just ignored the entire game. I'm going to go into guns, and I'm going to go into like leather. I'm going to go into light armor, and lots of like sword play and dashes
guns and
stuff
leather,
like
Brandon
that.
Jones.
Yep. The first question I asked him was like, do you have a bow and arrow? I was like, no. I'm like, okay. I'm like, crossbows? No. I'm like, okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine.
Pistols.
Pistols are very Bloodborne-y, where so you're not like pow, 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 pow. It's like you use them sparingly. But one thing that I really dug, that maybe I just need to play more Fallout or more Dragon Age, frankly, I've only played 1 and 2, is this was a tough skill tree. I stared at this thing for hours, and there are multiple branches of it, but there was one skill tree specifically that was like charisma and lock picking and like ingenuity and vigor, and every branch was like you're gonna miss the other branch. You just are. Like, you're just gonna miss a ton of stuff going on in this game. There's no way to do everything. It's impossible. Like, I guess I could have leveled more, but I beat this game, and I was like, yeah, I could just run into each area and grind if I wanted to, but like, I'm okay. So one thing, it was like something like Ingenuity, but it was basically there were shortcuts, like little like things you could spot in the environment to sneak through, and your character just wouldn't see them. Like, I could spot them because it's like classic video game, like, yeah, there's that little crevice. But my protagonist was like, I don't know how to use that, basically. It doesn't make sense to me. But I had a ton of charisma. So I would go into conversations, and like, there was one branch that would provide me opportunities that another person might not think of. And so I wouldn't get those opportunities. I would see them. They would grayed out. I'm like, And so like, my character just wasn't smart enough to be like, you know what? I'm going to MacGyver this situation, and I'm going to twist this in a way that I wouldn't normally be able to. My character was like, you're going to do this. And people were like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, yeah, you are. And they were like, you know what? I am. Like that. And I was like, that's great. I'm going to totally do that. But each of these, which made sense for me too, because I was an ambassador. So I would kind of like stomp my boots around the game a lot and just be like, look, like, I understand you're pissed because they came in and stole your meat, but I'm going to get you the meat and I'm going to take care of them. Just stop fighting each other, okay? But charisma also doubled as making your companions stronger. So you could get better gear for your companions, but none of them had skill trees. That was the only way to actually make their abilities stronger. So it's like...
That's interesting. Were they useful in combat?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely by the end of the game, I was like, you guys got this. I'll kick back with my rifle and watch you guys, kick butt. And fun, too, because you can... One of the first guys you start with was like, I kept him in a longsword like the whole time, and he would just tank and run in. And then there was like a pirate guy, and so like he was the other rifle guy. And I'm like, I'm mostly doing guns, so you're fine. But I'll have like my mage come in, and there's one mage that mostly deals in damage AoEs, another mage that deals with heals and stuff. And so it's fun just watching them again, like Dragon Age. It's just fun watching them get in the mix, and run around. But like, one example of something I didn't do was Vigor, and Vigor's like climbing stuff. Like, you'll see like a really thin branch that you can just shimmy across, and like, couldn't do it. So there's so many times in the game I'm like, And there's a trinket that you can put on each of your companions. You can have 2 with you at a time that gives you 1 point in any of those things. So if I had so I gave the pirate the lockpicking one, and I'm like, there's that one chest. Okay, dude, come with me. Okay, all right, open that chest. Okay, go back home. So like, if you wanted, you could buff up things that you're like, I don't need charisma, but I'll give it to my guy.
Do you have a house?
Yes. So here's I don't
For
want to
your
go
housing, Jones.
too much about this game.
How's
but
the housing?
Terrible. Again, this is
okay.
Yeah, this is where this game is not great. This game
just immediately crushed.
Cuts corners in the most hilarious ways. You have a house dictated by or given to you because you are this ambassador in all of the cities. And you go to one city and it's kind of like Persia vibes, like lots of domed tops and lots of sand on the ground, and your house is the same. And you go into like the main, the first area, and it's like kind of like London 2. I think they actually call it like new whatever,
London 2.
Yeah, it's like new
same
whatever
house.
the town you came from in, same house,
Same.
When you go into like the mayor or the head of the city, all
Same
of those are the same exact structure, the same. When you go into like the barracks, it's like the same exact structure.
Can you customize your housing at all, or no? Okay.
So I had a bedroom upstairs. I never went up there because I could sleep downstairs if I needed to change time of day. So it was like, the flow was okay, but there were just some parts of that game I just kind of chuckled at because I was like, and that's where the budget stopped.
Well, you keep comparing it to Dragon Age, and so a natural question I think is you mentioned the companions in combat and making them more potent, I guess.
Yeah.
But are there companion storylines? Like,
Yes.
do you care about digging into them? Are they an interesting part of the game?
Yes.
Do you have to make decisions with them?
I could romance 2 different people. I made a decision and went heavily on one. Nothing came out of that. I don't know if I did it wrong or I saved before every romance conversation and tried to play it the best I could. And then at the end of the game, she was like, we're friends. I'm like, great.
Nice. Excellent.
It seemed like her and I had the most in common, just kind of.
Just didn't work out.
Yeah, it was like, all right. But yeah, they definitely have those moments where that stuff will pop up. And one really interesting thing that I don't think I've ever seen in a game before, which I love and also kind of got annoying after a while, but you fast travel everywhere. And you fast travel to an area, and then each map, like I said, it's hallway-esque. But there will be campfires that you establish, and there's actually like a quest you go through, so you can tell like how many campfires you haven't done yet. And I was just like policing that the entire game. I'm like, I want to get every campfire, and then you can port back to those areas. If you port to an area, a campfire within the area, the general huge map that you're in, you'll just right there. And I played it on PC, and the load times are great. Technically, the game was pretty great. Facial animation's rough, but again, it's just like a across the board kind of thing. It's like that's just the way the game looks. Voice acting is pretty good, lots of it. But if I go to an area outside of where I am, you'll go to a camp in transition. So you'll be like in this little camp environment, and then all of your companions will be there. So you can grab somebody and put them in your party before you move on. And you can do a chest. You can go build stuff because you can manufacture items. You can upgrade your items and just the costumes. Again, it's a very 18th century aesthetic, which I love. But so if you're into that, just aesthetically, all the outfits and the weapons and stuff, I really dug. And there's a vendor there. So it's just this nice stopgap when you have to go places. Near the end of the game, when I was just like story, it does it every time. So I was like, I don't need, I just want to go straight to that town. Like, I don't need this camp. But it wasn't, I've never seen a game function that way, where they're like, fast travel, but stop here first. So that was interesting. If they do Greedfall 2, it's like, give me the option to skip that.
Does it play into morality at all? Like, if you continually act a certain way, are there pretty big repercussions for those actions, or does it not focus on that too much?
That's where the Greedfall comes in. It's kind of like the morality plays a big role in like the whole story.
I see.
Just
and
terms
is that like a meter where it's like, you did this thing, you're going this way, or is it more...
It's just baked into the story.
I see.
It's just the decisions that you have to make.
So does that lead to like multiple endings, or...
It felt like a 50-50 split. I think there's one ending or another.
Okay.
Again, there are more quests that you can do if you choose to invest in characters. I invested in everything, so I did all the quests for everybody because I was just having a great time. But I think it wasn't gratifying in a way that Outer Worlds seemed to be. I have not finished it, or Dragon Age, or from what I can tell, Mass Effect. I think BioWare does a much more elaborate, fascinating job of that, and in character relationships too. I think there were only 3 characters of the group that I could romance. But just societally, the way the world was structured, I thought was very interesting. And it's being an American, it echoed a lot of our Western expansion. That's just kind of pushing Native Americans out, and then learning, when it was far too late, so many years later, centuries later, decades and decades later, that really the ramifications of what we had done. And there's this disease called the Malachor that has crossed over into your town that you come from, and like they have no cure of it. And then you get to this island, and none of the natives have it. So boo-hoo. So there's this it's like you're trying to be like, we need your help. I understand, why on earth would you help us? Because we came in and we're taking over all of your land, but please. And so it's tough for me. I always try to be a good guy in a game, and it's hard. Like you represent a government that a lot of people don't like at all. And so it's really interesting kind of trying to be the nice guy in all situations. Or if you want to, just screw it, don't care.
That does sound really interesting.
Yeah.
I think just the story and the decisions you make are kind of the things that are catching my attention the most. I feel like I remember people complaining about a lack of enemy variety in Greedfall. Does that ring true for you?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
It is not something, I guess, for a game like this that it just doesn't give off Devil May Cry vibes or something like that, where it's just like, I need a new challenge. I'm just like, this is fun. I'm having a great time watching
Do you fight a lot?
my dudes run around. Oh yeah, you fight, like almost all the areas you get into have enemies, and I think it does get creative in terms of like some of the human enemies that you fight, the way they establish some things as enemies. There definitely is a lot of repetition. Unfortunately, there's like repetition near the end in terms of some bosses. It does one of those things where it's just like, and now go fight all those things again, but they're blue. And you're like, okay. Again, Greedfall's fascinating to me. It was why I could not wait to talk about it on a Frame Trap, because the budget concerns are so obvious. Like they are just right there, that like you either stop playing or you keep going, but I just never went back and complained about them. So when you say enemy variety, it's like, oh yeah, I think sometime around hour 32 I did recognize that, but then just moved on. Like I didn't, and I'm not going to say it's not a problem. I'm not going to say if that's an issue for you, that's not going to come up. But it's just like when I went into my town in the second city, I was like, oh, okay. Like I will set my expectations right there, But I still found it fascinating, and just story-wise, I think, and I do need to accentuate that the lip sync is awful and the facial animation is subpar. But again, it just is clear that the developers were like, that's where we're stopping. That's how much work we're doing. That's the engine we built. maybe for PS5, Xbox Series X, we'll make the faces not move around in weird ways. My favorite was when and I'm imagining this happens to everybody. I didn't take a ton of time creating my character, but there was one long quest line where I was like, I gotta find this guy. And he was working with what guy? And this guy was an underhanded dealer on the black market. And I finally found you. And it was me. I was like, oh, hey, you look familiar. And I was just talking to myself back and forth. Like, okay.
Yeah, that would.
Okay. There's like 6 faces, I think.
Good.
Or something.
That's good.
It's but
Brandon,
it was my jam.
I love the energy you're bringing to these games and admittedly acknowledging the problems.
And the world is pretty. Again, in hallways, but when you hit those vistas, when you get to a new area, lots of forests. Like you are just on an island. It's not like Borderlands where you're gonna have like all sorts of crazy acid pools and stuff. But
toxic waste.
There were definitely some. I took a knee here and there.
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
I want to play it so bad, Jones.
The way they,
especially because they cut corners in other places. I was like, you didn't with that vista. Nice.
You
smartly spent money on that one.
The cut corners make you appreciate the not cut corners even more.
And such is gaming.
The way you're talking about this game and the things that you're specifically responding to make me really want you to play Divinity Original Sin 2 because I mean it's a lot. It's a huge
to me, it's
game
like
to tackle.
reading War and Peace.
Right.
It's just like I know.
It is, but
and I have played it. I did.
Yeah.
I cracked it open, and I did start a campaign, I could tell everyone why it's good. I know why. It's just like
I just feel like once it got its hooks in you, you probably wouldn't be able to stop.
Yeah.
I
think Divinity's the kind of thing where you can watch that for 30 minutes and like there it is. That's the game. You can just watch 3 characters talk to 1 NPC, and it's like, holy cow! If that keeps going,
right?
Like that's dense.
I think that's the thing that's so remarkable about Divinity, though, is it has the long and the short game where all the different areas are distinctly memorable, and the writing between characters is so wonderful. But it's also how things develop over hours and hours and hours and hours that is also very good. But, whatever, because you said the forbidden word, Jones. Of course you did. You always do.
I do. I really have a bad habit.
Really feel like you always say the forbidden word. And you and I both know exactly what it is. Like, the second it came out of your mouth, there was no way the demons were going to let that slide. Aperitif.
Yeah, of course.
Whatever that means. I don't know. I don't know what aperitif means. They didn't know either. They were pissed about it. Our Caught in a Frame Trap game today. I'm actually very excited about
An alcoholic
this.
drink taken before a meal to stimulate the appetite.
Oh.
It's exactly what I was going for.
Okay.
100%.
Wait, what context?
An alcoholic drink you take before a meal to stimulate
Yeah,
the
but I
appetite.
don't even remember the context that you said it.
I was saying that this is something that I would enjoy before this thing. So I wanted it to be like an hors d'oeuvre. Hors d'oeuvre was the first word that came to my mind, but it wasn't right. But that's the thing is
Wordsmith Jones.
well, that's the thing is I try to dig deep and I get us in trouble every time.
The demons.
The demons.
I have pulled Metacritic quotes for either the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie or Detective Pikachu.
Ooh.
And you have to tell me if this blurb refers to Detective Pikachu or Sonic the Hedgehog movie. You're both competing against one another.
I've seen Pikachu, so
I've seen neither.
recently.
I obviously, to not make it too obvious, I might say like blank in place of the actual word, or I may have cut the quote a little bit short, but bear with me. All right, number 1. The film's plot is either too much or too little. But whatever you decide, it's best to give up any expectations of true logic and just go with the flow.
Pikachu.
That is Pikachu. You both get a point. That is from the Austin Chronicle. Number 2, this 1 hour and 44 minutes of blank short circuits your brain.
Sonic.
Detective Pikachu. This is 1 hour and 44 minutes of blank short circuiting your brain.
I wish my brain was short circuited.
Just in general?
I was just watching that movie.
I see.
That's my goal. That's my.
Did
that's
you
what
see
I recommend.
Detective Pikachu?
I did. I watched it with Amanda.
Did you like it?
Loved it.
Nice.
Loved it.
I gotta
All
watch
about
it.
expectations, baby.
Number 3.
I'm here to show up later and say the things about Pokemon that Kyle hates. That's
Okay.
That's where you count on. I will show up a
You're
week
just
later.
Like you've got like a broom and like a bin, and you're just like cleaning up.
It's like my bat signal. Kyle complaining about something.
Number 3, it's not quite as bad as the awful trailer threatened, just dull, bland, and pointless.
Sonic.
That's Sonic. That's from the Irish Times. The second one, the Pikachu one, was New York Times. Number 4, it's an enjoyable movie night combination of lightning quips, genuine friendship, and observational humor.
Pikachu.
Sonic.
Sonic.
Oh,
Hubert
Sonic
pulls
is the
ahead.
Friendship. Friendship, bonds.
They both have that human CG bond.
That is from We Got This Covered.
Oh no, that's
Last one. Blank is another demonstration of the things that tend to go wrong when a movie is spun out from source material with little plot and skimpy characterization.
Sonic.
I'm going to say Sonic because spun out, dude. It's a pun.
It is Sonic.
Yes.
Damn.
Huber claims the victory, 4-3. You guys both did pretty well with that game.
Spun out.
Huber, since you won, you will have the honor of breaking us out of the frame trap. Maybe do something Sonic or Pikachu related, just as a goal. But before we get there, we've got some wonderful sponsors to shout out, and our relatively new shout out tier. You can find out more at patreon.com/easyallies. And I think I want to keep throwing a spicy new thing. This isn't that spicy, but I want to keep throwing a new thing on these shout outs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a name, and then I'm going to quickly point to one of you, and you have to shout out. But you don't know who I'm going to point to. Okay?
No, okay.
All right. Our first shout out is Elthanas.
Shout out.
Greg TheDarkKnight Kettering.
Shout out.
Caleb Togi Crawford.
Shout out.
Will Schmuck.
Shout out.
Mr. One Luigi. Shout out. Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Thank you to all of our wonderful shout out tier patrons. Huber, would you like to break us out of the frame trap?
Yeah, I want to do the I want to do a co-op thing. I want to do like a spin dash.
Okay.
This will be our Sonic, but Ben, you have to do the noises.
Okay.
Okay.
That's me playing any Sonic.
I hope
right?
that I hope that was. Do you not like Sonic?
I love Sonic. I'm bad at it.
Oh, we should. Oh man, I would
I
love
get caught
a,
in the flow, and I put the blinders come on.
Gotcha.
The sound, just like as a kid, just doing the spin dash in place, just mashing it, charging it up. I would just sit there, run out of time.
And at the after.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good.
Yeah. Will a spin dash be done or used in the movie? What do you think?
Yeah.
Spin dash?
Yeah.
Spin dashing?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pretty advanced move. We're only in the first movie. I mean, how many of these are there going to be? They're going to burn the spin dash straight away?
Yeah, I've
I
seen
feel like
fans
the spin
clip
dash
stuff
is
out
pretty
of trailers, and
You need
Easy
it.
thing
Yeah,
to
all right.
burn. What do you think the most obscure reference is going to be?
There's going to be a mid-credits tease, but the post-credits tease will be Big the Cat related.
I would love just like a Chow to show up in the movie randomly.
Yep. Knuckles mid-credits, Amy post-credits.
Amy. Oh man, like CG Amy might be.
Is Tails in this yet?
I
In
don't.
the
I
first
mean,
one?
I
They
didn't
haven't
see
shown
Tails
him?
in the. I haven't seen the movie,
Dude.
so I can't say for
I
sure.
gotta see
But
it. I gotta see this.
Huber, you finished recently Blasphemous.
Blasphemous.
neat.
I've talked about it. Brad's talked about it a little bit, but
Yeah.
I think you were the only one of us that has actually played all the way through it.
Dude, it's my Metroidvania initiative over the last couple years where slowly but surely I'm just trying to finish all of the like newer games.
It's like Umbrella. I'm with
Yeah.
I'm with the Metroidvania.
I'm with the
initiative.
Metroidvania initiative.
Emergency code.
I'm always playing a Metroidvania now on the side, just chipping away here and there.
It's funny because I feel like you've got like 4 or 5 different side games where like I ask you about it, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's my side game.
Real on the side, real on
Yeah.
the side.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting, like the whole vibe of how easy is it to pick up and remember where I was.
Yeah.
is a major point for you if you're going to keep doing this.
Yes. This like don't stop. Gotta stop after you beat a boss or something. Really good place to remember.
sure.
Good break point.
Right.
Yeah. But Blasphemous visually obviously is the main takeaway from this game. It just looks so good. Maybe a little disturbing to some people though. It is very graphic.
It's like
Very graphic violence.
just a couple of bosses there.
Yeah. So pretty disturbing art, but beautiful nonetheless.
The music is phenomenal.
Really, really good music that didn't get its hooks in me until very late, actually, when I just realized, because There's a thing that I appreciate where it'll just keep going, the music, in a way. Like, in between loads, or, you're looking at the menus, it'll maybe dim a little bit.
Sure.
Then you'll fight something, and it'll kind of pick up a little bit. But it's very, like, dynamic with the music, which I really appreciated. Even when you die, it kind of stops, but then kind of comes back up where you were, because you're dying. You're going to die in this game. But the thing I want to sell about Blasphemous, other than the art, like, if you like the art, I think that's the biggest draw. Because it is...
I do love the art.
So, yeah, it's really... I can't overhype how good this game looks enough, but it's the accessibility of this. There's not too many items. There's not too many moves you need to learn. There's not a lot of weapons. There's no like Symphony of the Night gear and all this. It's attack, parry, slide and dodge, and platforming, and that's really it.
It comes down to execution.
It comes down to execution. So it was never overwhelming with things I needed to learn. It was very simple. Okay, I just need to get these one or two things right in my progression.
Is it fair to say that Gothic fantasy is perhaps the best aesthetic? It's certainly like top 3.
I mean, I mentioned
like top 3.
Bloodborne. I was like, well, fine. I've said bad things about every Souls game to this point, but I'm
Right.
clearly playing this.
Yeah.
But this isn't Bloodborne. This is kind of its own thing.
It's
like
definitely
almost,
got the Soulsborne DNA in it, for sure. You die, you can come back
sure,
and
gameplay-wise.
reclaim
He's just saying
your-
from an aesthetic
Oh,
standpoint.
okay.
but literally, just of the bosses that I've seen of the main character. There's almost kind of like a Catholicism, like
Yes,
Yeah, oh,
yes,
yeah,
Jones.
yeah.
Very religious. It's religious Souls.
yeah. Which is kind of like you were saying, it has that beauty and unsettling nature. It's like The Exorcist. It's like that's a gorgeous soundtrack, but it's also a horrifying movie.
Yes.
And so I love that fine edge between
Yeah.
when you get into that stuff with really really creepy horror,
Sure.
You just made me think of
visual horror.
like religious Genesis games, and like if a Christian organization was like religious souls, like
Souls, yeah.
Jesus souls or
Yeah.
something, like it was their take
Totally.
on souls.
Yeah.
But I think something that Souls does at its best anyway is the challenge remains interesting and engaging from beginning to end, right?
Yes.
And is that the case here, or do you reach a point where it becomes a little easy, or
It's funny, the part I streamed one part of this game pretty late, so spoilers be warned. I streamed maybe in the 60 to 70% of the way through range. That was the most frustrating part of the entire game,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even bad. It's not terrible. Like, the challenge of this game felt right for me. I died, obviously, a couple times on every boss. You're dying a couple times. The final boss, admittedly, took me like 10, 15 tries. It's the final boss of the game.
right?
But really nice difficulty climb throughout. Kind of tapers off at parts, goes up. Some bosses were actually pretty chill. You'd beat them on like the second or third try. So the challenge felt right. And because there aren't a million things to keep track of, it always feels like you can beat it. It's like, oh, well, I'm not missing out on this weapon plus 8 stats.
Right.
It's like, I just got to execute here. I can do this.
This sounds really disturbing, but I do always appreciate it. And, obviously something that Doom gets so right is the way things die.
Yes.
The way things die in Blasphemous is so good.
Yeah,
They
it's-
just die in the most disgusting ways possible.
Yeah, and if you can like stun them or get a kill, like an execution. You can get an execution attack, and it's so rare that every time you do it, it's like really satisfying, because then it is some disturbing kill animation. One of the enemies, he just like grabs by the hair and just keeps hacking at the head. It's like, wow, crazy kills. Really, really, really
you were in heaven.
graphic game. Yeah.
Yeah.
The criticism, dialogue, story, for me personally, I'm just speaking for me, like below subpar, like bad story and
Like, what was
like-
there wasn't good, or there wasn't enough?
what was there I was never into. I was never, into the lore. The voice acting was pretty bad. This is a smaller budget game, but the voice acting was rough. Story is rough, but combat and progression and exploration were all spot on.
Man, that is something that I feel like nothing has. There have been so many games inspired by Souls, but nothing has really captured the mystique and the lore as well as Souls. Like, no other Souls I think has made me so obsessed with finding out more about the world and ravenously consuming information. And obviously, Blasphemous is not the same thing, but
then the bullet points are there. You're going into like weird worlds and these creatures, gods are there and they're talking to you, and like all the DNA is there for an interesting story and world and lore, but I think just with the voice acting and the writing, they couldn't deliver. I will say, though, no spoilers, when I finished the game, I was intrigued, obviously because I like the game, I want more Blasphemous, but even when I was finished, I was like, oh, I want to know more about the actual world of Blasphemous going forward with a sequel. Like, oh, that's what they did there's pretty interesting. I want to know more about that. So they got me at the end with the story potentially moving forward, but
stinger
in this one, stay for the exploration and combat and art.
Did you find the exploration satisfying, like outside of just going through an area to progress?
God, shout out to just game developers out there. I can't imagine balancing games like this, or just a game balance in general, whether it's an MMO or a card game or a Metroidvania,
fighting game balance,
fighting game. Yeah, just. There's only a few fast travel points. There's like 4 or 5. I think 5, unless I missed any, but there's like 5 fast travel points. So a lot of times you need to manually progress through places to get to other places. And that has the potential to be so annoying. I went through that with Hollow Knight, where it was never really annoying, but it like was almost there when it's like, you gotta go all the way back just for this one little thing. I think Blasphemous really got it right with spacing and distancing and fast travel. It was never really annoying to move around.
Cool.
So solid Metroidvania if you're still looking. If you're looking for any.
Brandon, I think you've got the heartbreak of this episode. This is a game that you were...
I've been pretty glowing about the other two, though.
Right, that's true. You were... It breaks my heart because you were the only one of the 9 of us that were even cared about this game, and you kept bringing it up, and you're like, "Oh, did we get that in yet?" And I could just sense this childlike excitement for you to play Dark Crystal Tactics, and it didn't live up to your expectations.
Yeah. We are plenty busy here at Easy Allies. We do a lot of stuff.
A lot of games.
Yeah, I think one thing that sometimes I don't mean for it to be a slight, but in some ways it can be, is when we don't review something that we've played. It's like, it's in one case with Blasphemous, we were playing it so much later, but I got this code in advance, and I played a good portion of it before the game came out, and just hit a point where I'm like, I don't need to make a video being like, this game is bad. Like, it's a $20 licensed game.
Breakpoint. Sorry.
Remember
where I was
yeah, that's But we made. I think a little frame trap convo will do it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I actually this put me in a unique position, which I can't recall being in other instances with other games, where played a lot of it before the embargo, didn't review it, but read a lot of reviews that day. Because it, admittedly there were like 5. This was not a game that a lot of people were checking out. It's on Switch, PS4. I played it on PS4, and I think the main thing for me, and it's interesting because sometimes when you're dealing with licensed material and you go into an adaptation, I really want to keep an open mind in terms of gameplay, in terms of how it's structured, specifically with tactics, because it's like the how they handle the tactics and the combat really should be the core of kind of what we're talking about. And so I really don't want to get hung up on this, but I will, because it's Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
The production values are just atrocious in this game, man. And not the actual gameplay. Like, how the characters look in the game is fine. Like, the abilities that they have is fun. One example of just above and beyond was one of my favorite and quite frankly one of the best characters from Age of Resistance, the Netflix show, is this podling named Hup, and he is he's a short guy who carries around a spoon and he wants to be a paladin. Paladin! And so he's like trying to protect people, and he's clearly just like outmatched.
Does he say it just like that?
Paladin!
That's pretty good.
And he's clearly
Amazing.
outmatched. Like his English, like some parts he speaks in English, some parts he speaks in his native tongue, and he's just this adorable character, and he's puppeteered so wonderfully, and he has so much personality, and I'm just like, oh, it's gonna be a blast to play as this guy. And he has like his own skill tree and a lot of crazy outfits he never wears in the show. Ability, like one is like chef, and he like spices things up, and he does all this
Awesome.
crazy. And I'm like, oh, great. Again, like I was not that interested to actually follow that skill tree to do that in combat, because I'm like, I want to get through this game, so I want to be effective, and like I don't know how cute I want to get with like what abilities I give them. So how they were represented in the game is fun. They do a lot of things that make sense for the characters. Female Gelfling can fly, which is established actually in the Dark Crystal film and in the show. And flight is a fun thing in tactics because you can move, and it's an ability they have. So even after you move them a certain amount of spaces, you can then fly up to higher spaces. And so you can have one female character like move a considerable distance. The rest of the game just looks so ugly, and it blows my mind that like, I don't know anything about this game's development. It came out way later than I was expecting, because we all, like for those of us that enjoyed the Netflix show, that happened, and then there's just like, half a year later, this game comes out.
I can't not bring up, every time you mention this game, I can't not bring up Stranger Things 3, the game.
Right.
Because that game is amazing.
Everything kind of clicks. It
Yes.
has a retro vibe,
Yes.
but it knows it.
Yeah.
This game really doesn't know what to do. There's nothing used from the film, no dialogue, no cutscenes, no stills, no art, nothing. It's all completely remade for this game, and remade poorly. There's an overworld map that you go that's just like just looks bad. I mean, it's just like I just don't think it would be that hard to paint something that looks a little more interesting. It's very 2D, it's very flat. The icons for each area that you finished are super small, like really, really small. Like I'm like, is that a checkpoint? Did I finish that? I can't imagine on Switch being like, I can't even see like what I'm looking at. Really confusing in a way that like there'll be one area and you click on it and it just loads a cutscene, and like that's it. That's all that area will ever be. And it's like, yeah, I understand replaying the cutscene, but it's just like it's gotta be a cleaner way you can do this. They redid their own art, so like they're recreating these really big, impactful, amazing moments that they created with computer effects and real-time effects and puppets and all this stuff, and then just doing this real kind of wonky art and just being like, oh yeah, that scene. And it's like, why on earth 6 months later would I want to revisit this story when you could just grab a still from the show? Like, what are you doing? It has Netflix in the title from the game. When you like boot up the game, it's like has the developer and the engines and Netflix right there, the logo. It's just so strange to me that they didn't use anything. Probably the music is the same. None of it really resonated or popped out for me. And the dialogue, like the menus when you go into when you're picking abilities, or you're selecting characters, or you're going their skill trees and stuff like that, it just feels like a mobile game. It's just a lot of just circles and squares and really basic text. And like when you pick a character, like their portrait has like a little flourish on the edge, and like that's it. That's like the only part of the game where they're like, ooh, here's a little pizzazz. And it just seems so bizarre, not only to be on a Henson something, but specifically Dark Crystal, this world that is just so immaculately produced. Even if you have no interest in seeing the show, if you just watch the documentary for like how that show was put together. And so it was so interesting me going into Age of Resistance, the show, and being like, I don't know, I'm really nervous. This is a huge show, and I didn't necessarily need more like a prequel to this. I don't know. And then walking out being like, wow, that was so much better than I thought it was going to be. Looked so much better, and the story was so interesting. And then this tactics game, and being like, oh, silly little tactics game. And like, I'm underwhelmed. What? Like, why? My expectations for both of these things were so bizarre. That said, I read reviews. I read people that beat it and finished it. It is deep. You can, there's a ton of flexibility that you have in modding out your characters. It seemed kind of odd to me. Like for example, there's a character named Deet who grew up in caves. Her eyes are really pretty. She has no pupils, so it's just these big like glass purple orbs as her eyeballs. And she's the one that travels around with Hup. And I saw her and was like, oh, and I looked at the skill tree and I'm like, oh, you're gonna be my magic dealer. And the game's like, yes, but if you want this crazy job at the bottom of her skill tree, you also need to make her a scout. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend 20 hours having this character do something she did not do at all in the show and play a thing that I already have him. I already have a scout. It was just a lot of like busy work to maybe try to achieve something at the end. And they even warn you. There's even one like tooltip that comes up in a loading screen that's like, you have to do lots of work if you want to get to that last class, that like third tier. And I was just like, and then just
you feel like you can see the intent there, but it doesn't change the fact that it is really annoying and like
for
you said, busy work.
Yeah, for a licensed thing. Again, if they weren't licensed, if it was like this is in the world of Halo or Mass Effect and it's all new characters and you can make this character who you're just meeting for the first time be anything you want, great, you know. But being like, that guy who's the warrior, make him a mage, and it's like that's not really
Stranger
what I'm looking
Things
for here.
nailed that. Everyone you're using is like spot on to their personality.
For a $20 game,
right.
I get that's what I need. That's what I really would have had fun with, and kind of that's why I didn't review it, because it's like I'm not the biggest tactics guy. Final Fantasy Tactics is probably my favorite tactics game. It's probably the best, or one of the best tactics games. Probably one of the best Final Fantasy stories, from all of the research that I've done on the subject, which is fairly extensive over the years. But of games that I have not played, that I've read the stories of and done features on. So I guess if you're coming out the tactics route, if you're a tactics fan, that you're like, Dark Crystal's fine. You're probably gonna have a lot of fun. Actually, it's interesting. There's a lot of freedom. Later on, they started to do a lot of fun things about like water levels rising and
still though I think
threats coming in, wind that would push everybody off, so you had to like get everybody behind a rock. But like right when this game had like a sharp difficulty spike, I was like, I can't put up with this.
Yeah, like that's really awesome and great that there's a deep combat system and then the tactics themselves is a sound system, but there's a licensed game. You need that charm. That's so part of it for me.
It wasn't interesting to revisit the story. I didn't really feel these characters were represented in a super fun way. I mean, they were like right when I started playing them, but just like 10 hours later, it's like I just don't know if I want to keep going. So I think it's like the most damning review I can make of this game, and that like I stopped. It's $20. So again, if you are, you're like, oh man, tactics on Switch, let's do it. Or if you're like, I just love that show so much, I really want to play as these characters.
Right.
It's fun because I think there are 4 or 5 maximum characters you can bring in. And like, if you follow the show, if you're like, okay, I know there are lots of other, just like Smarga. It's like, oh, okay, he wasn't in the show, but sure. Like, I need a mage, and if I want to make them all Gilfling, sure, I'll throw him in there. But if you want to play as the heroes, if you want to really put that team together, it's like it's fun to get to that point.
I feel like everything you're telling me though, it's a hard sell, especially comparing it on Switch, where it's like, if it's not a good outlet for Dark Crystal fandom, why would I play it over Fire Emblem Three Houses, which has 4 different routes?
Oh yeah, forget about it. Yeah,
and just had DLC
$20
that came out.
$60. I mean, like,
well,
that's,
true, but then you also even comparing it to something like Wargroove, right? Which like just purely from an aesthetic level is immediately charming and vibrant and colorful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There just seem to be like much better options
or if you've
out
never
there.
played Final Fantasy Tactics, it's not too late.
It's not on Switch though.
It's in a lot of other things.
It's a lot of other things.
Yeah.
It's a lot of other things.
It's on your phone right now. Yeah. And so I feel bad. I only feel bad because we don't get a lot of licensed games based on a thing. And so I was actually kind of like, I think one of the reasons why I jumped on your radar for being a fan of it was I was shocked when I first saw the trailer. I was like, oh, get out. Really? Mm-hmm. We're getting a Dark Crystal Age of Resistance anything? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I was like, okay, tactics. Okay, that's interesting. It's just like, if you really want to just devour all this has to offer, I'm a fan of Dark Crystal gets sucked out real quick. And there's just a lot of stat pushing and, completionist type stuff, but just nothing that intrigued me whatsoever to keep going.
Gotcha.
It was a hard quit. It was a quit that made me feel good.
Quit one of those, made me feel good.
One of those you put on the shelf and like you take a deep breath afterwards, like woof.
Yep.
Yesterday I thought I was going to keep going, but today is a new day.
Neo 1.
Those
felt
good.
First quit. I'll be there for Neo 2, day 1.
That one burns me because I like Neo 1. It's way too long, but
it's way too.
Yeah,
long.
I didn't finish Neo 1. Loved it.
Way too long.
It is way too long.
Way too long.
The game that felt good to quit recently was Kakarot, DBZ Kakarot. I was like, this is not strong enough to go all the way with. But I was really hoping by the time that we shot this frame trap that I'd be done with it. I'm not done with it. And part of the reason I feel like I'm not done with it is because I'm enjoying it so much. And that is Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which I talked about last time. And I don't want to spend too much time on this game. But man, It is something, because what is enjoyable about it, I feel like, is different than a lot of other RPGs, and I want to hammer home how good progression is in this game. I think that's probably the number one thing of what makes Tokyo Mirage Sessions so good to me. And I talked about, leveling up your characters and then like raising their stage ranks so you can get new side quests, and the side quests are like amazingly charming and goofy and fun, and you actually get meaningful rewards out of them, which is nice. But there are just so many ways in which you progress, and it just keeps getting more and more satisfying. And so last time I mentioned that you have these sessions attacks, and I think both of you guys would really like this, where basically if you hit an enemy's weak point, your other party members will come in. It'll be like, oh, you hit that enemy's weak point. Well, I have an attack that I earned from leveling up that when you hit the weak point, I jump in and then this other person jumps in, and you can just keep building it. So once you get later on in the game and you have every party member, you're doing like hit after hit after hit after hit, and it's really fun just doing this like pain train of damage on an enemy.
Pain train.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like with turn-based RPGs, right? A struggle that can happen is making them like viscerally satisfying, right? Because like in an action game or a first-person shooter, you are pulling the trigger, you're hitting that button to fire the gun, you're swinging the sword. Whereas when you're just picking stuff from menus, there's a little bit of a disconnect. And so I think this system of chaining things together kind of gives you that visceral satisfaction in a way that other turn-based games can lack. It's something that like I love so much about like Final Fantasy VIII, right? Like hitting the R1, having the gun blade go off, that kind of feeling. It's not active like that, but I think the sentiment is still there. But it's just the way things keep going and expanding, and how like the game refuses to let you stop progressing, where later on you get like these dual attacks where as you're doing a session, you'll get like character portraits that'll pop up on the side. And then if you hit the button at the right while it's going on, they'll do a big flashy special attack where they team up, and it's like way over the top and super cinematic. So it's super fun to pull off. But you're leveling up weapons, you're leveling up stage rank to get those side quests, you're leveling up characters. But eventually you get to a point where it's like, do you just want to level up those weapons again? And so you can just do that, where it's like, well, I don't have any new weapons where I can, because weapons dictate the skills that you're learning. So as you level up weapons, you get new skills, and they're like, well, you don't have any new weapons to level up. You just want to level up old ones and make them like +1 and +2. And then as you do that, you're making all of your abilities that you have mapped to your character even stronger. And so like just the process of leveling up or grinding is so satisfying, because you feel like you're going in all these directions at once. And that is something that I mentioned on the last Frame Trap, but I just want to emphasize, where it just refuses to let up. And that's really good. But the other thing is just like the levity. I don't even remember what we were talking about, Brandon, but I feel like I love when a game is just trying to have a good time, or just trying to be goofy in a lot of different ways. And in Chapter 4, there's this scene where this director is being possessed by these things called mirages. And he's kind of like this snooty director, and he doesn't think that one of your main party members is a good enough actress. And so you have to kind of go and figure out like how to give him what he wants. And once you actually get to that point, it plays out the scene, and she is pretending to be this detective that when she sneezes, it's like Launch from Dragon Ball. She has this like bad personality, and it's just like goofy and fun and dumb and theatrical, and so many things are like that. It's just like they're kind of fans of all of these things, whether it's like Power Rangers-esque shows or these detective stories or all these things, and it's all set in this really bubbly kind of bubblegum world that is just like schmaltzy and fun and light. Like, I don't know. It's nice. I feel like there's so many like brown and gray realistic things that it's actually, Huber, I think a big part of like why you like Dragon Quest and I like Dragon Quest is it's just so
jolly.
Comforting. Right, it's so jolly. It's like you're wrapping that blanket around yourself. And I really think Tokyo Mirage Sessions gives the same kind of thing.
It's also a matter of consistency,
High
I
praise,
think.
Ben.
Yeah.
You gotta hit that tone and keep that tone, and you gotta know how far you can stretch that in either direction. You know,
Right.
like how if you want to add drama, because you need to, like, you need to have stakes for these characters. If you want to, you know, like you said, there's so many characters. Like I don't want them all to bleed together. I want to be able to pick my favorites. You know, but
Right.
at the same time, you want to have these funny moments, you know, as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, something like Blasphemous is like a whole different, you know, range, but there's still a range, you know. And as long as you stay in there, then I know what to expect. Then I can really enjoy things, still be shocked, but kind of feel like I know what I'm expecting. I know what I'm in for.
And speaking of just the characters, I think something that is a mark of a good JRPG is like you're gonna have preferences with the characters, but I think they're all like reasonably strong. And I think that was something about Dragon Quest XI that really stuck with me is I like all these people that are in my party. Like, you know, beyond just their utility in battle, I enjoy getting to learn more about them. I think the frustrating thing, and I'm actually curious to know where you guys fall on this, because I'm kind of at a point where it's like, whatever, like there are enough other good things that I don't want to harp on this too much. But a lot of the story telling comes down to, oh no, I'm facing this terrible thing. I really need to believe in myself.
Right.
You know, like just like the most
You got to do what?
typical.
What
like,
about believing in each other?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, well, then, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Give me it all.
that's the storytelling that I'm talking about. Where it's like I've got to reach
Dude.
down in with me, and like, oh, I couldn't have done this without you.
Ben.
It's a lot of that over and over and over again.
Then when I woke up this morning, there was a 0% chance I would ever in my life play this game. Now we're like over 50%.
The power of friendship has
Yeah.
put that above
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know the power of friendship and you know personal belief done in an anime aesthetic
Nice.
is tiring to you, I definitely think that will stick out like a sore thumb in this. But if you're like, if you could handle it, yeah. For sure. Jones, something I don't think you would like, you specifically, and Persona is like this as well. The areas that you go to like are very, very, very small. So if it's like, oh, I'm going to this place, it's like this one screen.
Yeah.
And then if I want to go into town, I just open a map and go there. It's
Yeah.
not like this huge connected thing. So I think that would
As long
get you a
as
little
the
bit.
important characters have a place where they do important things, right, Jones? Like
Oh,
this,
sure.
this
No, they
person, where does this person live? Where does this person work? These are Jones questions.
Oh yeah. Our infamous feud with Bossman regarding Peter Parker's apartment in Spider-Man.
yeah,
It's like, why would I want to go to Peter Parker's apartment? It's like, why wouldn't you want to go to?
Yeah.
Why do you go to the lab? Why do you go to the museum? Well, who cares?
Do you think the reason you two get along so well is because you are like matter and antimatter? Like,
Sure, but it's fun. I mean, I was just thinking about that's just what's great about it. I think that happens. It depends on the context. You know, it's like there are some things Kyle and I are very much aligned on. But I think about you know, growing up playing Pokemon and Mega Man and you know, like all the stuff I was not playing. You know.
yeah.
But then, you know, Final Fantasy VI,
Yeah.
we come together.
Yeah, that is something that is interesting about you is I feel like your entry points for things, I guess Final Fantasy VI isn't atypical, but like just,
I definitely blew right past Final Fantasy 1 and 2, aka 4. But
I just think
it
it's
really
so
took
fascinating.
till 6 for me to be like, oh.
I feel like a lot of people
Then I was
jumped
a
in
junkie.
at
I was like,
7.
Chrono Trigger, give it all to me.
Like I got into Pokemon as a very young kid,
Yeah.
and all my friends were into Pokemon, whereas
Right.
like you got into Pokemon as an adult and you really fell for it. And so I just think that's fascinating that you know at a much different age and time and
I'm a
perspective.
late bloomer.
Yeah,
Never too late.
that's cool.
Yep.
Well, that is all the games that we have to talk about. But we are not done talking. Some would say that this is the hottest part of the episode. You hear that music?
I hear something.
Music setting the tone. For the Otake! Today, I want to talk about something that is often complained about and is not new or fresh or really that hot.
Frame rates.
Not frame rates, no. No, I think just talking about frame rates generally might be a little hard. But Nintendo just announced some more games coming to their online service.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a bolt. I was like, boy,
A bolt of lightning.
Nintendo's online service is really frustrating, and like in a way that it totally doesn't have to be. And I wanted to ask the question: are we not hard enough on Nintendo? Do we give Nintendo a pass too quickly? Because the way that they present things, I feel like so many of Nintendo's problems, like you look at them and you feel like you could fix them in a second. And obviously nothing is ever that simple, but sometimes you just want Nintendo to play a ball a little bit more. Like there are so many SNES games that they could put out there. They could just be more generous. They could put more platforms out there. They could do more. Their online could be more robust. It could be special. It is cheap, which is nice, and that is something that should be said. But I get frustrated sometimes where it's like, oh yeah, I bought that virtual console game. I guess I'll have to plug in my Wii U to play these GBA games in the way that I want to or whatever. And it just doesn't need to be this way. Like, I want to give them money. I love the Switch. I adore the Switch in so many ways. But I just feel like Nintendo doesn't always respect my enthusiasm as a fan in the way that sometimes I feel like other companies do.
I think the NES and SNES classics, though, are steps in the right direction. Just offering, obviously you had to pay for the things, but it was like offering ways to play, their legendary games. Because I equate them to like Disney. When I think of Disney and Nintendo, it's like so similar of just these giant corporations that have all of our dreams and hopes and our loves of growing up. It's a lot of our childhoods are wrapped up in these companies, and they are so protective.
Oh no! Hold on though. I wanna throw Disney back at you because yes, Disney is a notoriously protective company, but I also feel like Disney is, at least in some ways, readily adapting to the times in ways that Nintendo isn't. Because, boy, Disney Plus, you can watch like a gigantic chunk of the Disney catalog, right? Because that's the way the world is going. And I'm not saying Nintendo has to be Disney Plus exactly, but that mentality of, I guess, offering that value to people because the options exist.
For sure. You know what is going to be an amazingly intense moment potentially is when the next gen consoles launch. Are these things going to be backwards compatible? Will the PS5 be able to play PS1 through 5, all your games? I think when that happens and that becomes a standard, just like being able to play your entire catalog and backlog, or your back catalog of games, maybe that'll put more pressure on Nintendo to do the same. Maybe they're waiting for this moment when they can flex their entire history of games. Just spitballing, I don't know.
I mean, maybe waiting to pounce is a good way to look at it, but I feel like Nintendo is in a pretty strong position right now where, to this day, I think we're still kind of marveling at the novelty of being like, oh, I can play Onimusha in my hands wherever I go. Like, that's pretty cool. And I still think that magic for the Switch is there, that I want to see them just keep pushing it because, more companies are getting into the mix. GeForce Now is happening, and that's something that you can play on the go, on your phone, on your laptop. xCloud is just doing iOS testing. Like, other companies are coming in. Yes, they're not exactly the same, but I think Nintendo has such a strong library to leverage that their reluctance to leverage it more effectively seems weird, I guess.
I think the only person that can pressure Nintendo is Nintendo.
Yeah.
March them out. I don't
gave up. I don't think there's any podcast or influencer or executive.
Do you think Blood could?
Yeah.
Not even Blood.
Blood can get in the door, but it's funny. Like, we have a Nintendo podcast, and Damiani spends so much of his time just harping on Nintendo. There's so many Nintendo announcements I've brought to Damiani. Being like, "Do you hear about this?" He's like, "Yeah, that's not as exciting as you think it is," or, will correct me in some way to reset my expectations. And yeah, there really is. Nintendo has something that Sony and Xbox, for all of their success, wishes they have so much. Is there just no way? I mean, probably in our lifetimes, they're never going to get back to that. that catalog. You know, they're never gonna have that many characters. Like you think about all of the people that have been added to Smash over the years, and like that's built on the fact that there were already so many characters already there. Even just in the first game, like these were all Nintendo properties. Like even bringing in like Pikmin and other stuff, it's like we're still in that world. You know, even if you like cut out all of the other stuff, Metal Gear and all these other crazy Banjo and like all the fighting game characters and stuff, it's like it's still just a humongous library that resonates in a way that I don't think anything even comes close to, not even half, like on as far as how much people love.
Like Super Mario as an icon versus it's not even close.
And I just don't think there's the synergy between like tennis and kart, and there's just so many things that were established so long ago where all these people come together that you have your Nathan Drakes and your Kratoses, and they still they're all kind of like sailing their own ships in different directions. I just get I just get a sense of maybe not fear, but it's just too much risk. They're just like whenever we do that. Like the way Disney, I believe, is approaching Disney Plus is they're like, we got you for life. Like now you're signed up. Now we can count on you giving us that money forever. And now this is now the vault. Now we decide what you get when you get it. And for me, for as much as I consume stuff, I had the joyous moment the other day where I was just like, oh, Toy Story 4. Yeah. I was like, I waited long enough. I did it. I didn't see it in theaters, and there it is. Here it is. Great. Let's watch Toy Story 4 tonight. We did, and I loved it. So it's like I'm just at that right point where I'm consuming just enough entertainment that it's rolling in. At this point, I am not a online video service for television and film journalist. I am a gaming journalist primarily, and so it's like, yes, I have a much different opinion when it comes to where's my Pilot Wings, where's my Pilot Wings 64 on the Switch. I would buy that. That doesn't make sense. I think. Nintendo's approaching it from a different way that Disney is. That's like, if we do that with Disney Plus, there's no going back. We can't do that again. We can't relaunch that again. So it's like Nintendo keeps doing this thing where they're like, now announcing. And Disney kind of did that later. Like, that's why Infinity pissed me off so much because of how much noise they made when Infinity launched. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they canceled it. Now they're like, now we're going to do. I was like, well, why am I going to be excited for this? And like, I feel that way with Nintendo. It's just like, what, I'm down with the NES games. I'm down with the SNES games because it's packaged into their online offering. So it's like that's a package deal that makes sense for me because I do want to play for my job, obviously, but like I do want to play Nintendo games online. And so it's fun every now and then to get that email and be like, oh, cool, this weird Smash Tennis, great. But it doesn't make sense at all to me why they wouldn't have some service that then updates. Kind of same thing with Pokemon. It's like, Here's the new Pokemon gathering thing. It's like, for real? 20 years and we didn't streamline this at some point? Like, why do you have to, why aren't you updating a thing? Why are you keep releasing a new thing? Why do you have to like cancel the old thing to give me a new thing? It seems weird and messy and yeah.
That's the thing, right? But
then they make billions. So you're like, what the hell do I know?
Right. Obviously, they're very successful.
Pokemon and Nintendo.
I don't even have a problem with the way that they're doing it now with the NES and SNES games tied to the online service and you getting new games regularly. But it just feels like they come at a glacial pace and it's not exciting. Like, they already have the thing. They're just using it in like the most like lethargic, limp way that they possibly could
be.
Like,
why the hell, if I'm over in their marketing department, why the hell is PS Plus announcing the free PS Plus games every month a bigger deal than celebrating our Nintendo and Super Nintendo classics? Like, Goat Simulator should not be getting, no offense to the Goat Simulator or whatever, but like, hey, we got Goat Simulator for free on Plus. Why is that making more news and headlines and coming at a steady, consistent pace?
I don't think I grabbed my January games.
And it's like,
I think I missed it.
You have this arsenal, but
right.
Well, there's just no rhyme or reason to it. There's not a path. And that's the thing is I feel bad, again, nothing against Goat Simulator, but every now and then you play a game and you're like, this is a PS Plus game. Like this, I'm coming back to this. This is a game. A lot of that sequel oriented where they're going to have a new game coming out. And so it's time you should go back and play the old MLB or whatever. But it's so weird. I'll take this in an unexpected direction, just in terms of like Nintendo disappointment. I am not going to try to change anybody else's opinion, and I'm saving this opinion for Frame Trap just to drop this here, but we are in the Hitake section.
Exclusive.
There is a part of me, that the Kyle Bossman-esque part, that stands in the back of my brain with its arm folded, that thinks Super Mario Maker 1 and 2 are like, okay. That think basically the community behind Super Mario Maker 1 and 2 are Super Mario Maker. That it's not what the game did,
but the game
it's this obsessive, right?
But that's tools. That's the game. The game is the tools that they use.
Right, but it's like when maybe my expectations were, and granted I've played very little of Mario Maker 2. I should not lump Mario Maker 2. I can't strike that from the record. Mario Maker 1. I think I gave Mario Maker 1 like an 8, and I think a lot of people were mad at me. And it's like, I should be unlocking art of these characters. I should be unlocking stories of when they were made. I should be unlocking behind the scenes stuff. Like, you should treat this like Rare,
Mega Man collection,
like Rare
whatever,
treated its thing. It's just why is there like when do I get to the point in Nintendo where you blow this thing out? You know, it doesn't seem like, for as much fun as these games are, it's you know, and for as much as I just love even games that I'm not going to play, I'm not going to touch Luigi's Mansion 3, but like I'm so glad it exists. You know, like there's so many reasons to love Nintendo, and especially the Switch is like such a win. But yeah, like there's so many things. I look at that Super Nintendo library and it's like, I'm so stoked I get to play Super Punch-Out. But just I look at this grid, and Breath of Fire has been really good. I played Breath of Fire 1 and 2. Like what a joy. But I look at this grid of games, it's like, what's going on? You know, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no this led to this and this is prepping you for this, or this game would be interesting beyond just cracking it open and playing it for a second and then you move on. Like, give me a video about its creation or an interview with somebody or
I think Mario.
Teach me about it.
That would be so phenomenal, Jones, with the resources involved. That'd be, oh my God.
I totally get what you're saying, and in a lot of ways I agree with you. I think Mario Maker specifically is a weird game to make that case for, because I feel like its drive is creation, and I think putting too much noise around that would become frustrating for the community that wants to just have easy access to the base and cycle through.
Yeah, this wouldn't gatekeep you from things. It's just like, again, it's just more.
But I get what you're saying, and to maybe extend on that point, I think that is what is so incredible about Sakurai's games, is they are the blowout. Like,
yes.
You play a Sakurai game, and it is exactly what you are describing, where the whole just keeps going in super bizarre ways. Like, you're unlocking things, you get history, like the music player in Smash Brothers, the art that you collect.
Oh, the World of Light is that the thing?
The single player in Ultimate, like
all
just
of this stuff, like the majority of things I was unlocking, it's like I have no idea what this is.
Right, and it just keeps going, like the references for the spirits and just on and on and on and on and on and on and on, where like, if you are a fan, this is a place to kind of dig in, and you feel like you are being rewarded for being a fan. And I think that is also something that is remarkable about Super Smash Brothers, is it has done such a good job of presenting these series and these characters that it has made a lot of people who had no idea what Earthbound was, or Fire Emblem, or, you know, probably many other things, want to get into them because of how well they're presented in Smash Brothers. And so I think, I don't know, sometimes I wish the thoroughness of that was presented in more Nintendo things, like you were saying, where, like, I think going back to the online service, it's not like they haven't offered these games before. It's just, like, on 3DS, they added Super Nintendo games, but they added them super late, right? And they were, you know, new 3DS. But I don't know. I just don't. I want to love these games, and I think the Switch has such a huge audience that, like, it would be cool if people could download, like, Advance Wars or the GBA Fire Emblem games or Metroid Zero Mission on their Switch. Like, all of these games that I think a new audience that wasn't there for the Wii U, that wasn't there for the GBA, would be very receptive to them and would kill on the Switch. It just seems like a gigantic missed opportunity.
Maybe like release those leading up to Prime 4 or something. You know, again, just some kind of like story that you can frame around these things, or introducing them other than just like, poof, there they are.
Hubert, at the end of the day, do you think this is worth whining about? Like, do you?
No, Nintendo definitely does a lot of frustrating things, but at the same time, you know, they've got so many things that mean the world to people. I mean, you know, when I think of Sony, right, I think of like God of War and Uncharted. Like, well, that's like Naughty Dog is, yeah, it's Sony, but it's Naughty Dog. Like, God of War is Sony, yeah, okay. But when I think of Nintendo, I think of Mario, Zelda, Mario Kart, Smash, like Fire Emblem, all this, Metroid, you know, you were nailing it earlier. Just all these properties that they are in complete control of. So I just imagine, you know, someone is always complaining about, why is this character in Smash? Or where's my Mario DLC? Or why are we still playing Mario Kart 8? It's like there's 100 things to complain to Nintendo
You just
about.
kind of become numb to it after a while.
So
Yeah.
many
Or
Pokemon.
Nintendo does. You know,
You're damn Pokemon this, Pokemon that. There's
best-selling
a million.
Pokemon game ever.
Whereas like if you're yelling at Sony, it's like, let me change my PSN ID. That was a big one. But like, you know, you're coming at Naughty Dog for something, or you're coming at, you know, who else? I didn't think of any developers right now, but you know what I'm saying.
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can I plant a flag in the ground, though?
Yeah.
There is no reason to complain about Smash characters. Like,
Sure.
there is no reason to complain about Smash characters.
What a
Smash
gift.
You know,
is
I wasn't that
waterfall
excited
of
about
joy.
Byleth either.
Smash
but
is a gift.
There's so many goddamn characters.
Smash-
We are grateful that Sakurai crushes his bones into dust to give us this game.
I have a thing. Ben. It's one of the rare topics that I would one day love to write a book about when it comes to entertainment. But I have a thing about precedence, and when something is presented that is unprecedented, I get frustrated when people are angry about it. You know, when they're just like, this thing that's never happened before should have happened this way. And
Yeah.
you're like, based on what? Like, what are you? Huh? There's nothing like Smash. Maybe will never be. That's insane. This crazy franchise. Just any time that they're like, when Byleth got announced, I was like, well, there we go. And it's like, no, that was a Pac-Man. We're getting like 4 more. I was like, 4 more.
It never stops.
So many characters.
Like
that have been added since this game launched.
It never stops.
the Spider-Man puzzle controversy, like that was towards Insomniac, you know?
The
Where-
Spider-Man puzzle.
Remember when the puddle didn't
Oh, the
let-
puddle.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's like
yeah.
Insomniac's getting the heat
There you go.
versus Sony proper. Whereas anytime Nintendo's getting heat, it's Nintendo's getting the heat.
There's so much heat generated about everything now, you know, and I guess you could also apply this to Hotake, because it's a segment about discussing things. But I'm going to say it anyway. There's so much heat about every little thing now that, like, it's hard to parse what's actually a big deal and what's not, you know? And, like, so everything seems like a big deal. Well, it's not.
And
Yeah.
nothing is a big deal.
Yeah.
To touch on that lightly, again, that's how I handle criticism of the work that I do.
No.
It's just that, like, I just kind of like take it all in, and then when something just hops out of that, and I go, you know what, I agree. I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with
Sure.
you on that. I
Sure.
was thinking that, and then you mentioned it, so I'll change that, and not like, you used 8 exclamation points in all caps, so then I'll obviously do that. That's Nintendo. They're just they're ignoring all of those all caps.
You know what, though? Like,
This Satake is just all caps Nintendo.
maybe just thinking of Nintendo as a person, or, like, just thinking of Sakurai and how
Yeah.
he spent,
Sakurai did.
like, decades of his life,
Yeah.
like, listening to
Making-
people.
Making dreams come true.
Yeah, making dreams come true, but then, like, people getting mad that a character wasn't in. Like, think about how many times Sakurai has heard the same thing, and it's just like he probably doesn't even hear it anymore. Like, his brain just filters out certain sentences.
But the fact that like Reggie's doing a thing tomorrow, right?
I don't know.
I think at
At
GDC,
Dice. At Dice.
right? The fact that Reggie still is like, all right, just don't ask me about Mother 3. Like,
Right.
Sakurai
Well-
still hears it, dude. It feels bad.
Oh,
They still hear it.
But that's why he does the trolls, you know, like a Duck Hunt dog pretending to be Banjo for a second in the trailer. Like that's how he gets that off his chest.
Right. That's a cathartic moment.
It's 3 in the morning, and he's on YouTube, like just watching that video again. You know,
Sakurai.
going and watching the live comments. They wouldn't.
Sakurai is just an exceptionally eloquent shit poster. Like, that's all right.
It's an art.
Are we ready for emails?
Sure.
I really like this email a lot. The first one is from Ricky. 90s versus now podcast game. I've been having an internal debate. I grew up in the 90s, and I was always held it was the era of the greatest video games of all time. Totally unbiased. However, I also believe the games industry and talent therein has grown immensely in the last few years, having some of the best games ever made. So the clash begins. I'm going to put 5 games from a year in the 90s up against 5 games from a recent year, and you have to choose between the 90s or now. For added drama, whichever selection of games you choose will be the only games you can play from either category.
The batches, I like it.
They're not erased from history or disrupt the time continuum. I love the specificity here.
I already got 1 year locked. Sorry.
Let's start with an easy one, the year I was born. So 1994 or 2014. You can only choose
2014 is one of the worst video.
2014
Sorry.
was, imbalanced.
Spoilers.
The options for 1994 are Final Fantasy VI, Super Metroid, Donkey Kong Country, Doom 2, Warcraft. 2014 we have Dragon.
Yeah, no. 94.
We got it.
94.
Play ball with me.
Okay.
Play ball with me.
Okay.
2014 Dragon Age Inquisition, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, Alien Isolation.
It's not even Alien
Hearthstone,
Isolation. Yeah.
Bayonetta 2. All right, it's not
even close. 2014 is toast. Yeah.
1995 versus
Final
2015.
Fantasy VI, Doom 2, full stop.
Makes me nervous for
1995.
2021 actually a little bit. 2014. Sorry.
1995 versus 2015. 1985, Chrono Trigger, Yoshi's Island, Twisted Metal, Rayman, Command & Conquer. 2015, The Witcher 3, Bloodborne, Undertale, Ori and the Blind Forest, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain.
One more time, 95.
Chrono Trigger, Yoshi's Island, Twisted Metal, Rayman, Command & Conquer. The Witcher 3...
2015.
Yeah, I'll give it 2015 on that.
Man,
Yeah.
there are some
Like-
obviously incredible games.
You
in
have, you
1995.
have Chrono Trigger and you have Bloodborne and Witcher 3. And then...
The original Twisted Metal is fun.
It's fine.
It doesn't, 2's better, Black's really great. Like the original Twisted Metal is just like it's a fun romp, but it's not like we don't talk about Twisted Metal that much. Let's be honest.
2015, I guess.
Witcher 3 and
Okay.
Bloodborne, baby.
Yeah.
And again, it's the 90s was that was it for me, y'all. I was in high school, man, when all of that
I had
a big
the
deal.
joystick for Doom.
yeah.
Joystick.
Joystick.
I don't think I've ever played Doom with a
Yeah.
joystick. 1996 versus 2016. 1996, Super Mario 64, Diablo, Quake, Resident Evil, Pokemon Red and Blue. 2016, Overwatch, Doom 2016, Dark Souls 3, Inside, Uncharted 4. I am.
Tricky year.
This one is easy for
Go
me.
again?
I'm doing 1996.
Yeah,
Super
man.
Mario 64, Diablo, Quake, Resident Evil, Pokemon Red and Blue.
Gotta go with
2016, Overwatch, Doom 2016, Dark Souls 3, Inside, Uncharted 4. I'm going 1996.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
90s win.
1997 versus 2017.
97.
Final Fantasy, and this is 1997, of course. Final Fantasy 7, GoldenEye 007, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Turok, Fallout.
97. I mean, I was like,
2017, though, Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, Mario Odyssey, What Remains of Edith Finch.
No.
Yeah, it's still 97.
Sorry, dude. Sorry, man.
Dude, Breath of the Wild, though,
Yeah.
and Odyssey
Yeah.
against...
Final Fantasy
Against
7,
Final Fantasy
007.
7, GoldenEye, Symphony of the Night.
I mean,
97 was one of
GoldenEye
the best years
chugs
in-
and Final Fantasy 7 Remake's going to be better, so...
Hold on.
I was just kidding. I was just throwing gas. I want to see your reaction. I just want to see your reaction.
Breath of the Wild is tough.
It
That's
is.
Well,
tough.
It's
Not
tough.
to mention Persona 5, Mario
yeah.
Odyssey,
Persona
and
5,
Horizon.
Yeah.
It's tough.
That's tough.
1987.
But that
I'm gonna go with 2017.
Okay, cool.
Me personally,
Cool,
but
cool.
1988 versus 2018. I mean,
GoldenEye's framing. I swear. You know what?
It's framey.
Hubert, congratulations, man. Because 99.999999999.99 times I see this man in public, all I want to do is hug him and kiss him. It's the only time I want to punch you in the face when you talk about how framing GoldenEye is. It's the only time.
Yo,
it's
we
the
gotta
only time.
play
It's the
4
first,
players.
The first thing he's ever said since I met him. That I'm like, I want to punch you in the face.
we gotta play 4 players local on an N64. Check the tape.
And I'm not,
it is
sure,
framing. He's not wrong.
I'm not saying he's wrong. It's just this fact that like it just suddenly like devalues
know,
it, or that it's
it doesn't
well,
devalue
off
it.
into the trash
It's
bin
no,
with you, GoldenEye.
no. When we're talking about the Hall of Greats. That's the only time that the framiness and like kill your babies, I guess.
I feel like everybody has been cut a very specific way during Hall of Greats. Like we have all
yeah.
of individual Hall of
Yeah.
Great scars that we will never forget.
It's that scene in
You
Lethal
might
Weapon
have
3.
more than most.
They'll be like, oh yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft. Nobody voted.
Yeah.
All right, 1998 versus 2018. 1998, Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, StarCraft, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil 2.
Yep. 98.
2018,
Yeah.
Red Dead
98.
Redemption 2, God of War, Spider-Man, Astrobot, Celeste. Yeah, there's
It's
no
98.
come on.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
98, still the best
Is
year.
absurd.
1999 versus 2019. 1999, System Shock 2, The Sims, EverQuest, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Final Fantasy 8. 2019, Sekiro, Death Stranding, Outer Wilds, Devil May Cry 5, Disco Elysium.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go 2019 there.
Same.
Sure.
Hell of a year. One of my favorites. Consistent year.
It was just a crowd pleasing year,
Yep,
man.
yep.
There's just a lot of really good
Yep.
stuff.
A lot of good
It was weird compared to
genres.
some of the years prior because there wasn't like especially with
There wasn't a
when,
God
when
of
we
War.
got when we got this crew together at GT at Defy Media, like it just and that first Goaty convo we got together was I mean, I keep thinking whenever I think of Goaty, I think of GTA 5, but it wasn't GTA 5. That Bloodborne Witcher, man.
Yeah.
That battle was so funny, and so we always
good.
thought, funny is one way to put it, but when we think about like the duel, like, it's gonna be up between these two, and 19 kind of just crushed that. It was neat, where we really went in like, whoa, I don't know where
And 18 God of
Bosman's
War.
into Death Stranding.
was a
What's
lock.
happening right now? Like it was fun.
God of War,
enjoyed
what
it.
I remember was like 8 seconds. And our game of the year, God of War, cool.
Breath of the Wild, but again, it's like Breath of the Wild,
Breath of
Persona
the Wild
5. You know, like it was.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Got
it's
it.
tough.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
You can argue
still
those
don't
games
think,
until the cows come home. Like
I don't think anything was fiercer than
no one's wrong. Oh
Witcher
no,
versus
no.
Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Bonus round, take a chance on 2020 versus 2000. So 2000 was Majora's Mask, Diablo 2, Counter-Strike, Deus Ex, Final Fantasy 9. 2020 is Cyberpunk 2077, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us Part 2, Doom Eternal, and Half-Life Alyx.
I really gotta go.
2000 one more time.
Majora's Mask, Diablo 2, Counter-Strike, Deus Ex, Final Fantasy 9. I mean, a lot of those are like some of my favorite games ever.
Yeah, that's a Ben Moore year.
yeah.
But I still feel like 2020 has the potential to give some of the best games of all time within their respective genres. I feel like Doom Eternal can be straight up the best first-person shooter ever made. I think Cyberpunk can be the best immersive sim of all time. I think Last of Us Part 2 could be easily the best narrative-driven game ever. 2020 is pure hype, dude. 2020.
It's been a
baby.
really long gen, and there's some devs that have just been cooking stuff.
2020
this
is
whole time.
ready.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it's like 2000 was a great year. It already was hype. Now we're guessing on hype. Potential hype. Potential hype.
I believe in 2020. I believe in Harvey Dent.
I believe in 2020 as well. But it's also tough because, like, those games were childhood games in a lot of ways, and I just had like a limit, no responsibilities.
yeah.
Let's just play Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Kind of a time. So you're also comparing it against that. Next question comes in from Alexander. Hello, allies. I finished my job shift and was walking home with the in credits song of Metal Gear Solid in the Winter Night with the stars out. In credits song of Metal Gear Solid in the Winter Night with the stars out. Sorry. Then I had a thought. I was able to clearly remember the game just by thinking of its colors, and it made me smile. Looking back, certain color filters like Division 1 and Metal Gear Solid have a cool, cold Arctic blue feel, while Zelda has a pine tree green glow to most of the game's theme. My question is there a game you can remember just by the color of it? Thank you, everyone. Well, what color?
Like yellow. A lot of yellow and green.
You know what yellow makes me think of? Persona 4.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Red makes me think of Persona 5.
Right.
Definitely.
I also get a red, a rosiness from Final Fantasy 9. There's like a glow to that. Fables, orange,
Yeah.
the entire thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Fable's
Halo's
definitely
green,
orange.
obviously,
Yeah.
the Halo franchise.
Yeah.
I get blue, obviously her hair, but I get blue. Her hair is red, but I get blue vibes from Perfect Dark.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
It's kind of a
like
blueness throughout the
a
whole campaign.
dark, deep
Yeah.
blue.
Jones, what do you think of the car park?
The what?
What do you think of the car park map in Perfect Dark?
Oh yeah, dude. Where you're with the mission, where all the
Or
invisible guys come
or-
jumping out. And,
well, that's the campaign. Just in
You can hack
multiplayer, the
the-
map.
oh sure.
Just with like the the stairwells. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. It holds
I
up.
spent more time in multiplayer in GoldenEye because it's a vastly better game, which is why I was confused when you brought that up. I don't remember it as distinctly.
Holds up.
I
man.
love Jones Salt. It's like maybe the best salt is
Yeah.
Jones Salt. If you ever meet Jones in person, ask him about Last of Us versus GTA 5. You're in for a good time.
When I think of orange, I think of the orange box.
Oh, that's a good one. Left 4 Dead is very green to me. Just that hand and the color.
Well, once your screen turns green for a good 10 seconds if you're playing poorly.
Yeah, boomer.
Yeah, the green's all you see for a little bit.
Back 4 Blood. Turtle Rock's next one. Back 4 Blood.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah, I want to win for that team.
Yeah,
I want
I'm ready.
I want that team to knock that out of the park.
Yep.
Dead Space, I think of the like kind of
It's like
turquoise.
amber.
Well, no, the health.
Yeah.
The spine, the health in Dead Space.
Yeah. And it's your hand on the ground,
Right.
the line.
Well, and just like your
a cool
marker
blue.
for your cutter as well.
Yeah.
You're aiming. Yeah.
I'll say good things about it, even though it bored me to tears. But Isolation, just the orange from the HUD, and like there's like a cool blue as well. The green to all of the. I think the computers were like my favorite thing about that game. Just that aesthetic was so clean and crisp and just perfect. Photoreal. How'd they do? How did that game do photoreal better than anybody's done this gen in some places? Crazy.
Bayonetta, black and red. Same with Dante.
Nice.
Devil May Cry.
Yeah, definite red. Obviously,
Yeah.
It's all over all the iconography. His coat and whatnot.
Cute.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to let go. I want to like just meditate on
Yeah.
that for an hour. Like that's a fun one to really think about.
Brad and I used to all the time throughout the years. We still do. I'll tell him tonight that I brought this up. Just like Unreal Engine 3, Gears of War, just like poopy browns and grays. Like every game was just brown and gray and gross.
Nothing beats that Unreal Engine 3 pop in, man.
Yeah. So anytime a game is gross and just brown and gray, I think of Gears of War 1.
Speaking of brown, Red Dead Redemption 1 might be the brownest game I've ever played in my entire life. That game was brown, that was
rich.
That was one of the things I actually don't think I noticed until after I had reviewed Red Dead 2. That I was playing online, and I was like, "Oh, there's no water in the first game at all.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a river."
Yep.
that, like you cross Mexico on. Like that's it. That is like the only there's like a swampish kind of a thing.
That's weird. I guess you're right. Yeah.
And then you
I
get
never
to
really
Blackwater
thought
at
of
the
that.
end, and then you see that stuff, and like there's lakes and waterfall. There's just like so much differences, and considering it's just like right there, compared to the first game, they did such a good job adding snow and all that stuff. All other snow in Red Dead.
Our last email comes in from Brandon. He says, the frustration of working with old tech. I know here in the midst of February, 2020 didn't get off to the start the past couple of years have, and while if original release dates held, we would be feeling the craze of Ori and the Will of the Wisps and The Last of Us Part 2, to help pass the time to get to March, I decided to dig out my PS2 and replay an old game that is near and dear to my heart, Gauntlet Dark Legacy.
Cool.
And while the game is fun and I'm enjoying going through it once more, I can't help but be sad at the state of my PS2. It is the original launch model, aka the box, that's what I've got, not the Slim, and it's showing its age. The trade's front plate falls off if I'm not careful. The drive will randomly shut off if it's open for a random amount of time. I don't have the back plate that would cover where the online adapter would go. The port for the AV cable is finicky, causing a blurred picture and distorted noise if not plugged in just right. Sometimes the system won't recognize the memory card, causing multiple unplugs and replugs. I have loved my PS2 for the last 2 decades, but I rarely revisit it anymore because of how temperamental it is. So I wanted to ask you all, do you ever go back and play older games you love on their native hardware? And if so, do you encounter similar issues? Do you believe it would be prudent for there to be a way we could play older games that haven't been remastered or ported in a reliable way on updated hardware? Is there anything you feel could be done more with game preservation to future-proof
Just
games
bringing this
moving
up.
forward and
there's
prevent
no
such
question.
issues?
Game curation, dude. So important. I always think of Martin Scorsese. He does so much for film preservation, and film has like 100 years on games. So I feel like maybe a couple decades from now it'll start to be a thing, but I don't really think, at least to my knowledge,
Good
like,
news, man.
at least
got an update for it.
yeah, like we need a champion to curate games the way Scorsese handles film. Like it is a big thing. I can't, now that especially we're going digital, like 10, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I don't even know what it's going to look like.
One of my they shouldn't do this because it obviously wouldn't sell a lot, but like when the NES Classic and SNES, now we got Genesis and PlayStation, all that stuff, like when that was a thing, I remember one day I was like, oh, I would totally buy a console if Sony released it that just played PlayStation 1, 2, 3. You just popped in a disc and it just played those games. Like,
Huber's system.
I'd buy that.
All 5.
Yeah, if PlayStation 5 does all that, obviously it's a huge win. But it's weird, that you see so many retro efforts. You see so many people. There's some like Game Boy thing that is coming out now. It's coming out like this year. That just is the most like gorgeous screen. It like will make Game Boy games look better than they did on the original Game Boy.
OLED or something.
And it plays everything like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Advance, and all sorts of crazy stuff. I think like Lynx or so. It plays like a ton of different systems.
I guess emulators are game curation in a way,
but it's just not. It's messy. It's just not.
Yeah, with PC games in particular, I feel like there was a period of time where I was trying to get into things, and I would run into frustrations of things not working. But with like GOG and like Steam communities, like I feel like there have been several games recently where I've installed and I'm like, okay, well, how do I get this in 1080p? Like, how do I update this? And I've just been very easily able to find information either through Steam or just very quickly somewhere else and download, and it's just been like a snap. And so that's been really nice. And I don't know if this helps Brandon. I don't know if you guys take the same approach, but in the last year, I've had my Dreamcast break and my Wii U break, and I just immediately got new ones, like because it's so important. To me. You know, it's like it's almost like it's not, but it's almost like if my car went down, where it's like I'm not going the rest of this year without a Dreamcast. Like I need it. Like I feel uncomfortable if I don't have it, and so to Brandon, I say like I feel you. Like I had a PS2 controller that just like wasn't recognizing anymore, and just go on eBay and get another one. And I feel like you can usually find that stuff for a fairly reasonable price, not always, but I think there is still a huge benefit on playing native hardware. Sometimes you just gotta buy it. Like at least you have your memory cards, at least you have that information.
Right.
So you can just plug that into a new system. Hopefully it's that easy for you. But I don't know. Huber, do you put a lot of value in like busting out the PS2?
Absolutely.
Is that important to you?
Rarely do. It's tough.
Because it's a hassle.
I almost never do.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'll only do it for work.
I do it, like, the only situation now where I do it is when I want to play Dragon Quest VIII on PS2. Everything else has pretty much been remade or remastered or whatever the heck. I know we're playing, we usually play all the old Resident Evils just on PS3, the PS1 classics, instead of getting out the PS1 and going through all that, just because it's easier and, yeah.
It's a really good game that was released only on the original console. Still holds up. But sadly, they never re-released it. Is GoldenEye for the 64.
Yep. Yeah. It's the only way to play the game.
Right.
It is the only way to play the game.
So intense. Love it.
I really want to play GoldenEye with Jones.
Don't you?
I do.
We'll
You
play
just
4
start
players.
talking about it for a little bit, don't you? Just
License to kill, pistols only facility.
We played
A lot
Perfect
of-
Dark on Friday.
Yeah,
Good time.
Jones,
that
dude,
was a great.
You got to get in that
what a
car
gift.
park with us, dude. Hype it up.
Is that because I remember? Is there like staircases go up and down that you can like see people's feet, so you can just?
It is 3 separate stairwells that all have like 3 floors, so you never know which one they're in, and you can it's nuts.
Going back to the color question, lots of yellow in that level. Lots of yellow. All my consoles went towards game trailers and Easy Allies. I was just kind of like, I brought it into work, and then I just, is that my GameCube or your? I don't remember. And so I gave up a lot of those things, but at the same time, there obviously was so much at work that I could take. We had this massive library at GT. When my 2 saddest things were my 3DO and my Jaguar both just died, and we needed them for some feature, and I was like, I got it. I have the 3DO. I'll bring it in. And I didn't do anything to this system. I put it away in storage, and I didn't touch it, and it didn't get dust on it or anything. Plugged it in, it's broken. Like, no!
Well, and
I
just
did the work!
And just replacing a 3DO is not that easy, right? So that flies in the face of the advice that I
like
had.
2 games, like that.
Right.
Yeah.
My PS2, the battery AC power in the back is like so inconsistent. I'll plug it in, and sometimes it won't read, and I'll just have to keep unplugging it, plugging it, unplugging it, plugging it, and then eventually it'll get power.
This is what was so beautiful about the Virtual Console on Wii. The idea of it was that you take all this obscure shit and you could just download it. You could just play it on your Wii. Things that were expensive or you never had access to before. And you know what? Nintendo just dropped that. That's bullshit.
Well, I get scared because they delist things, dude. So not even that to me is like a foolproof. Oh, just put everything online. And it's like, well, X-Men says hello and Simpsons and all these other delisted games.
And then they did re-release them, and now you can't get them anymore.
Again, so it's all...
Yeah. Or like, obviously the infamous case of Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell of a game, that. PT.
I think you said E.T.
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 The best advice I can give you is pick like your top 5 games of all time and buy hard copies of them. Straight up, have copies of your you know. I gotta have Resident Evil 2 hard copy, just in case.
Do you sleep with it?
No.
Do you think you should?
If the zombie apocalypse happened, yeah, I would hold it close.
You'd hold it
Give me
close.
strength.
That's going to do it for Frame Trap. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. If you want to send in an email to Frame Trap, email askeasyallies@gmail.com. One more time, that is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Thank you for the wonderful conversations, Mr. Brandon Jones and Mr. Michael Huber. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to find out more about us, go to patreon.com/easyallies, where you can find a whole bunch of things. You can find reviews, and we've been doing a lot of impressions recently. We've got more impressions coming up, some hot new game impressions. I'm doing one next week that I'm pretty excited about. That I don't think I can tell you what it is.
Ooh.
It's better when you don't. The tease.
Better.
Tease.
Yeah, it's better. The tease.
I have one too that I can't tell you what it's about. Look at that. Double tease.
Double tease.
Double dose.
We better stop this Frame Trap before any more teasing happens. The audience can't take it until next time.